Hello and welcome to Alternatively episode 13, season 1, episode 13. We are here.
No, we're not.
We are here. Thank you for bearing with
We're not
us.
here.
We're not here?
We're
Are
not
you-
here. No.
Oh, where are we?
Somewhere that's not here.
Somewhere that's not here. Well, we are not here. We are live though. This is the first time we've been live in a while. It feels really good. Annie, Sater, Variable, in the chat. Anybody else? I know there's more people here than have commented so far. Thank you for bearing with us last week. I, in some cases, admire, and in other cases, am appalled by those who have been able to, or who have gone live and talked about anything in front of an audience, much less the murder of Charlie Kirk. And I have not had the heart to do that, to be in a live chat, to do anything. So we did put out a pre-recorded episode last week, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope it didn't hit too wrongly to be talking about something that wasn't what was on everyone's minds. But we aren't going to be talking about this tonight either. Maybe tomorrow night. We haven't decided what we're doing
here
with tomorrow night. If we don't talk about it tomorrow night, and we potentially put out a Bible study tomorrow night instead of the regular Thursday show, is probably what we're going to do, because things are just raw. Like, I know what I would talk about if we do a show, and I'm just not convinced I'm in a place to be able to do that in a way that would be, that you would even enjoy much.
Right.
So we'll see. Pray for us about that. If we don't do it, we'll pre-record something and talk about it and put it out next Wednesday. But yeah, I've been if for those of you who follow me on Twitter, you know what I think, what I've been saying. But as somebody who has enjoyed conspiracy theories for years and has participated in my share of live investigation of tragedies, I have been so sickened by the various conspiracy angles that people have been pushing, particularly the ones where some of Charlie's closest friends have been blamed and embroiled in these conspiracy theories. And I think it's one of the cruelest things I've ever seen in my life, knowing how much that they're grieving. So that's the primary reason why I do not want to get into it. And it's made me question, like, do I just see where the line is better when I'm so close to this particular tragedy? And have I crossed that line in previous tragedies? And that's something I'm doing a lot of thinking about. So if you could pray for me on that, because I do think it's something that matters. And I'm kind of horrified and sickened thinking that perhaps I have, with other tragedies in the past, Francis Scott Key Bridge maybe, or something, have crossed that line into that kind of cruel, genuinely disrespectful. And I've the last thing I'll say, I have really fiercely defended conspiracy theorists. I've been like, of course you're not being disrespectful if you want to get to the bottom of something. And I've never seen more clearly where that line is, as far as like when people genuinely are being disrespectful and cruel, and not genuinely like just investigating and trying to find the truth.
Like something smells wrong versus how can I maliciously or Candace Owens get in there and make it about you?
Yeah. Appreciate you guys in the chat. Sater, you are right. Erica's speech was incredible. If you haven't seen it yet, go see it. I just because we're not going to be talking about this tonight doesn't mean we don't deeply care about this and care about you and how you guys are doing. So to whatever extent you want to discuss it in the live chat, please do. Please do, because we're a community. And if that's what you need from the community tonight, please do. But Liz,
Yes.
What are you going to be presenting?
One side note, just preemptively.
No.
I don't think that this will be an issue. Also, no overridden. If any liberals come into chat today and try to pull anything, I doubt it will happen, but just preemptively if they do, you're allowed to hunt them for sport online, not in real life, to be clear. But in the comment section, the mods will look the other way.
Yeah, tonight is not going to be a particularly free speech night on the show. The mods, you have permission to...
Do we even have any active mods aside? Oh, Sater's a mod.
Yeah.
Why did we do that again?
I think I made Annie a mod too. I could be wrong.
Yeah, she is a mod. See, I feel safe with Annie.
So yeah, if anybody nasty is in the chat tonight, we don't have to deal with that. We don't have to put up with that.
But I mean, y'all are chill, and
yeah, we love you guys. All right, what are you doing? What are we even doing tonight?
It was my show today. Oh,
I didn't even run this thumbnail by you.
Oh,
I just kind of...
No, it looks good. You did well. I didn't give you any suggestions because I was like, she's proven her value before.
I searched the image library I have, Hermeticism, and I came up with something that was like Egypty, and I'm like, okay, well that feels like it works. You'll have to correct me.
And he's like, I'm a mod, LOL.
I think
go nuts.
I made you a mod, Annie, one time and probably forgot to tell
shield,
you.
Yeah,
but I could be. Yeah,
she has a shield. She's definitely a mod. So Annie, if you feel like modding anyone, there's a 3 little dot line. If you hover over someone's comment and it gives you options. I trust you with those options as long as you promise to mute Abby permanently. Anyway. We're not showing on screen anymore, by the way. We're still.
I put that.
It's fine. It's fine.
$15 Rumble rant from Variable 5. Just sell liberal hunting tags for $5 each. I'll take 3. Very specific number there, sir.
And then he says for legal purposes. The above is a joke.
Legal purposes.
Yes.
Is that like legal
immigrants?
I was thinking of the Unusual Whales Twitter account. Is that like illegal whales? But that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Oh, also, I know Abby didn't want to say too super duper dark, but like the whole murder arena, the liberals are covering up. I feel like we should cover that at some point.
We can talk about all of it. One thing I also want to talk about is just us. We weren't like in the last week and a half. I watched 2 people die.
Yeah, I watched 2 people die in one day. Wasn't that fun? I don't have any patience for liberals who celebrated Luigi Mangioni's thing, and then they're like, "But violence, you should do."
Yeah, it's so bad, and I think that like we are just as a society on the edge of understanding like what it means if a whole society watches people die on any kind of regular basis, because that's not the sort of thing that any of us should have to live with.
No.
And for it to happen a couple times in twice in a week was just I think we. Like it's already a horrible tragedy, right? But I think that a lot of us are carrying a heaviness just from those 2 things that we're not going to probably fully process out for a while.
Not the liberals though; they're not feeling a heaviness. But anyway, go ahead.
I mean, you can see the effect on their souls, but it's a different effect.
Yeah. And Net Prestige says this is what men saw in war and came back with PTSD. Yep. Yeah. Answered Sater says deport all the Democrats. Yeah. What if we just gave them their own country? We could give them Alaska.
California.
Oh, California. Yeah. I forgot that we hadn't already like launched that into the ocean. Yeah, we can give them that. Anyway. Actually, to really cause problems, we give them all Texas.
Oh no.
Anyway, moving on. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about, in case the title wasn't clear enough, Gnosticism, Hermeticism, Freemasonry in Egypt. This is going to be kind of a hodgepodge episode. If Abby did her job, there should be a link to my source material in the show description. Yes, because I'm going to be referring to the master game. I also use this a lot for my research for my Gnosticism show. This show should make sense to you if you didn't watch that one, but that one is a great primer, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, moving in to just introduce the show, I think I can best do that by quoting Robert Bauval and Graham Hancock in their book, The Master Game. So the true language of humans is not, as we previously thought, the spoken word, but the silent language of symbols and signs that speak directly to the mind and the soul of a person. And although everyone knows that a symbol is an image or object that represents something, few are aware that some symbols can be converted into extremely powerful intellectual instruments that can have devastating effects on large numbers of people by charging them with intoxicating ideologies and stirring emotions. When a symbol, whether a tangible object, monument, or building, or whether an intangible idea or logo is thus charged, then it becomes a talisman. Think of the Christian cross, the Star of David, the Islamic crescent, or the Nazi swastika, and the disturbing effects such talismans have had throughout history, and you will begin to get the gist of this elusive master game. Now, I get the feeling he's building on a lot of thought he's done in other books, where basically his idea is that there's this very advanced civilization we had before the flood, and by flood he refers to like a period of floods, that would have left behind some sort of coding of their knowledge in symbols and stuff that would be understood later through through Gnosis. So we're kind of going to be exploring some ideas that we're free to disagree with, but it's interesting to see the case he laid out. And so
and I wonder about the connection of that and memes, like the memes as like a really powerful sticking point for ideas that you might not even be able to fully articulate them, but like a meme can get something, a GIF or a meme can get an idea like deeply into you without like actually articulating out the ideas.
And one thing that we talked about in the Gnosticism thing is the idea of as above, so below. So everything that's happening on Earth is influenced by what's happening above, or vice versa. What you do below can influence what happens above. And so that idea of the symbols and the talismans being charged by doing the right set of symbols calls down something from above. So there's going to be some of that we're exploring of like, not that I think that that's the thing that happens, but attempts that have been made by different cultures throughout the years to do so, including America. So we're going to quote Asclepius, which is a Hermetic text. I don't know if it might be Asclepius, but I'm going to say Asclepius.
Asclepius.
So actually, is it Asclepius?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll just pronounce it both ways. So from this text, do you not know, Asclepius, that Egypt is an image of heaven, or to be more precise, that everything governed and moved in heaven came down to Egypt and was transferred there? If truth were told, our land is the temple of the whole world. So this is building the idea of there being some significance to a city or to a setup. And then in the Hermetic text known as the Kore Cosmo, which is also called the Virgin of the World in reference to Isis, this is Isis talking to Horus. The earth lies in the middle of the universe, stretched on her back as a human might lie facing towards heaven. Her head lies toward the south, her right shoulder toward the east, and her left shoulder towards the west. Her feet lie beneath the Great Bear to the north, but the right holy land of our ancestors, i.e. Egypt, lies in the middle of the earth. In the middle of the human body is the sanctuary of the heart, and the heart is the headquarters of the soul, and that, my son, is the reason why men of this land are more intelligent. It could not be otherwise, seeing they are born and bred upon earth's heart. So this idea of a physical location having more significance than just, this is where we happen to live. And you'll see this in a lot of cultures where it's like, we live at the belly button of the world. That's why we're special and more important. Yeah. And then Snuffleupagus, Gypsy Princess says. Snuffleupagus. Yes, we need to have the baby on screen again. Anyway, so the Sabaeans, wish I had more time to talk about them because he seemed kind of cool. It seems like the Sabaeans knew, maybe mixing things. It seems like the Sabaeans knew that, I think it's a Sirius star system is a binary star system before we did. And it's not visible with the naked eye. That's something to look into more at some other point if there's enough to it. But anyway, they were like basically the Magi, like the wandering wise men. I could be totally talking about my butt here, so I'm just going off of memory. But anyway, they had incorporated the Hermetica and the talismanic magic of the Asclepius text into their religion in the 9th century. And it seems that they passed that knowledge through Arabia into Spain and Occitania, where it was collected into works like the Picatrix, which is a lesser known book that is believed to be in the Hermetic tradition. So basically, there were a bunch of books brought back to Europe after a certain point that were considered Hermetic texts, and they had knowledge in them that you wouldn't, that is in line with a lot of Egyptian stuff, and it claimed to be of Egyptian origin, but it had clearly been translated from hieroglyphics, and this was before we knew how to translate. So it's potentially that the Sabaeans did this, is my understanding. So in a quote, the Picatrix is considered one of the most complete works on ancient talismanic magic in existence. It shows how to turn cities into talismans, basically. So this is a quote from that text. There are among the Chaldeans very perfect masters of this art, and they affirm that Hermes was the first who constructed images by means of which he knew how to regulate the Nile against the motion of the moon. This man also built a temple to the sun, and he knew how to hide himself from all so that no one could see him, although he was within it, so he was hide-and-seek master. It was he, too, who in the east of Egypt constructed a city 12 miles long, within which he constructed a castle, which had 4 gates in each of its 4 parts. On the eastern gate, he placed the form of an eagle, potentially that's Horus. On the western gate, the form of a bull, potentially that's the Apis bull.
Mm.
On the southern gate, the form of a lion, could be the Sphinx. And on the northern gate, he constructed the form of a dog, maybe Anubis, although that would be a jackal. Into these images, he introduced spirits which spoke with voices, nor could anyone enter the gates of the city without permission. There he planted trees, in the midst of which was a great tree which bore the fruits of all generation. Doesn't that kind of remind you of like a bastardization of Revelation? Like the tree for the healing of the nations.
Yeah.
And even
and like the magic gates. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of
and the like what, eagle, bull, lion, dog almost is, you know, the creatures with the different faces. It's reminiscent of that, some of the crossover in the animals.
Yeah.
So continuing that quote, on the summit of the castle, he caused to be raised a tower 30 cubits high, on the top of which he ordered to be placed a lighthouse, the colors of which changed every day until the 7th day, after which it returned to the first color. And so the city was illuminated with these colors. Near the city, there was abundance of waters in which dwelt many kinds of fish. Around the circumference of the city, he placed engraved images and ordered them in such manner that by their virtue the inhabitants were made virtuous and withdrawn from all wickedness and harm. The name of the city was Adosentin. So the idea of you could just, through this talismanic setup of things that align correctly with the heavens or whatnot, you could cause an effect in the minds of the people. So that's
it's like
interesting.
is it like the idea of drawing a rune and creating magic?
I believe
like
so.
runic magic?
Yeah, but on the scale of a city. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's that same concept, just kind of played out more dramatically. So in reference to the city, so there's earlier Arabic versions of the Picatrix that call Adosentin Al-Ashmunain. That's an actual place in Egypt. It's on the banks of the Nile. During Greek and Roman times, it served as the primary cult center for Thoth Hermes, and it was known by the Greeks as Hermopolis.
Hermopolis, which sounds like one of those like fake city names in a kind of campy YA fantasy book, but it's real.
Its original name, as a side note, this isn't super important, but just in case someone else recognized it, it was Kumun, meaning 8. Something about 8 being special. I'm imagining, is it like one of 8 cities? Is that why it's called 8? Anyway, so we have also, you're in charge of if anyone says anything cool in the comment section.
Oh yes.
Apparently Seder had to hide from liberals at work in the bathroom, which is fair.
Yeah.
I am actually really pleased. I have a liberal coworker, and she has not said a single thing negative about the Charlie Kirk thing. She did overhear me talking about the arena stabbing with my boss, and I looked over and she's Googling on the work computer, and I stopped her from playing the video on the work computer. I was like, that's not.
Yeah, like don't do that.
Don't do that.
It's.
Yeah.
I also talked to a liberal today.
Yes.
Kind of a medical provider, and I knew that she was a liberal, but she hadn't like really pushed her views at all. And today she was like, yeah, everyone's being so inhuman. And I was like, that's really good to hear, to hear a liberal calling that out.
I have seen so many liberals being like, maybe we're the bad guys. Like this is, I've seen like trans people, gay people reading their Bibles. Like there's one who's actually a more conservative right-wing person who's gay. She's like your good old-fashioned gay, so to speak. Talking about going to church now.
20 years ago when the gays were.
Back in my days when we weren't perverts. We were just good old gay. Back when that meant something. So that's why I'm a little concerned about my friend who, like, I would say she's motivated by an excess of compassion, and the sources she's seeing are just strongly propagandizing her. But the fact that she is like digging in makes me worried that like I've lost her and I'm no longer invited to Soup Fest. But anyway, I'll keep you guys updated on the sitch. So some quotes from the Book of the Dead, which is an ancient Egyptian text. It's super duper old. Where scholars in like modern times are not allowed to connect the Hermetic text to actual Egyptian texts. They're like, no, these are different, even though they have like the same ideas in them. And I don't know all the reasons why, except that scholars are poopy heads. But the Book of the Dead, that's definitely Egyptian text. So like, yeah. So a quote, a divine city hath been built for me. I know it, and I know the name thereof. And then another quote, I have come into the city of God, the region which existed in primeval time. So they had this idea of there used to be a time where there was this really powerful city and the gods dwelt in it, and their layup allowed English. Their layout of Egypt had to do with matching heaven, like this whole concept. And these quotes don't show a ton of that, but if you've done more reading on Egypt, you'd kind of already have some of that framework. And then we have the pyramid texts, which were circa 2300 BC from utterance 319. It says, the king has united the heavens. The king has power over the southern and northern lands, and the gods who aforetime, the king has built the city. The gods who were aforetime. The king has built the city of the god in accordance with its proper due. This idea of they're constantly striving to build the city of the gods, potentially so the gods can come back. I don't quite know. Then we have a Hermetic philosopher named Tommaso Campanella, who was around like the early 17th century. He wrote of making, in quotes, a city in such a wonderful way that only by looking at it, all the sciences may be learned. That would actually be kind of handy, because then I wouldn't have to go through years of school. I could just walk into a city and be like, whew, I'm smart now. This guy later prophesied that King Louis XIV of France would be the one to build the city of the sun. I could have dwelt on this way more, because the master game really goes into some interesting things that happened related to the King of France and some prophecy and some things that came to pass that were kind of supernatural seeming. They would have been fun to include. They would have kind of taken us off track and made it too long. But this is all just be like, if you want more information, the book is worth reading, because I'm not going to spoil everything.
I probably should read it.
Yeah, it is out of print. It is out of print, is my understanding, but I found a cheap copy, so they're accessible.
Okay.
So then we have a quote from the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus.
Trismegistus. I don't know.
Thrice majestic.
I like saying Trismegistus.
Honestly, go for it. Trismegistus. Come for me in the comments. I dare you. The Emerald Tablets are not part of the Hermetica, but it's part of the Hermetic tradition. So I guess
my understanding is the Emerald Tablet is a, like, they say it existed and they say this is what was on it, but we don't actually
kind of like the Princess Bride.
Right.
Whereas, do you remember when you were a kid and you spent, I was talking about this earlier, you spent a long time trying to find the unabridged version?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because the Morgenstern's Princess Bride says it's an abridged version of the Princess Bride. And I was like, I do not want an abridged book. I was so adamant that I didn't want to read any abridged books ever, that I was like, where's the original? Where is it?
Yeah.
Doesn't exist, guys. It doesn't.
Gypsy Princess. Sorry. I'm getting two things. Incoherent says they probably lived on a flat earth, so the stars were easier to see. Yeah. Back in the good old times, what you don't understand is it did used to be flat, but you know how paper kind of curls as it gets older? The earth has been doing that, but in the opposite direction. It got wet. The earth is made out of paper. Also, Gypsy Princess, we should all be praying for her, because her stepmom fell at home after knee surgery. So she spent the other day, this was the other day, I think, in the ER, but just a reminder for y'all to pray for.
I should write the unabridged version of the Princess Bride. Yes, I should.
Yes.
Yes. We
be the change you want to see.
Thoughts and prayers to Princess.
Yes.
She said, I had to sit in the ER all day with my screaming stepmom who fell at home after knee surgery.
Also,
ow.
Yeah. Major Brooks says there's a bunch of interesting accents being used this evening. This is because of autism. We should do the whole show in a Russian accent. Anyway, so from this Emerald Tablet, the quote says, that which is below corresponds with that which is above, and that which is above corresponds with that which is below in the accomplishment of the miracle of the one thing. So that, just a continued idea of them being linked. And then we have the Book of What is in the Duat, which is circa 1400 BC. That's another ancient Egyptian text. It teaches about gnosis that may be gained by replicating on the ground what is in the sky. So this is how you get that divine knowledge. Whoever shall make an exact copy of these forms and shall know it shall be a spirit well equipped both in heaven and in earth, unfailingly and regularly and eternally. Whosoever shall make a copy of these representations according to this copy of what is in the lament of the Duat, which cannot be looked at or seen, and whosoever shall know these secret images shall be in the condition of a spirit who is equipped for journeying. So as an aside, because as I was reading this, it made me think of it. It's not the point of the show. Is the theory of the pyramids is a power grid? Because what if it's not the power of electricity, but of spirit? But if you have it set correctly, or this is their idea, if you have it set correctly to mirror the sky perfectly, it's in alignment and it draws down from heaven the power.
It's like Orion's belt, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Even the staggering and the size of the pyramids lines up with the specific stars in there. Yeah. Anyway, and if you want to read more on that, Graham Hancock goes very much into those
Okay,
things.
but
Yes.
what?
What?
What if we destroyed the pyramids, would Orion's belt go away? It's the
Ooh.
dumbest question I've ever asked.
Let's try it. Let's see what happens.
Worth a shot.
Guys, I need 5 minutes unattended in Giza. I almost said Gaza. Wrong place. Please don't give me that. Anyway, so we view magic now as kind of a distinctly religious pursuit, but to the Egyptians, it was more just like a natural way of life, like their version of science, which honestly, given how people treat science now, science kind of is a religion. So it's not that different when you put it that way. But from their records, we've kind of gathered that the Egyptians viewed magic as a result of spiritual and intellectual learning. So magicians, through rigorous learning and initiations, they could attain special gnosis, which would be gifted to them by Thoth, which is the god of knowledge. And with it, they would use the power of words to control invisible forces. So bunch of nerds.
Bunch of nerds.
Bunch of nerd alert. And Thoth had gathered all this magical knowledge into sacred books, according to the Book of the Dead, which Hathor took to the Temple of Heliopolis. And we have the Westcar Papyrus that says a magician brought to Pharaoh Khufu's court this stuff, and the magician tells Khufu, who I can't read. So the magician tells Khufu, the pharaoh who wants to find these manuscripts hidden, that they are in an inventory room in sort of a hall of records in Heliopolis. So if you guys want to find those for me, go there and check it. Anyway, I apologize for not being able to speak. It's because Abby's here.
Whoa.
So we have a quote from historian Dame Frances Yates. She's an English historian from ye olden days. She says, the type of magic with which we are to be concerned differs profoundly from astrology, which is not necessarily magic at all, but a mathematical science based on the belief that human destiny is irrevocably governed by the stars, and that therefore from the study of a person's horoscope, the position of the stars at the time of his birth, one can foretell his irrevocably foreordained future. This magic is astrological only in the sense that it too bases itself upon the stars, their images and influences, but it is a way of escaping from astrological determinism by gaining power over the stars, guiding their influences in the direction which the operator desires. Or in the religious sense, it is a way of salvation, of escape from material fortune and destiny, or of obtaining insight into the divine. Hence, astrological magic is not a correct description of it, and hereafter, for want of a better term, I shall call it astral magic. And she was talking about this specifically during the Renaissance, Egyptian magic was revived. People were doing all like the casting horoscopes and stuff. So it's the idea of, are we controlled by the stars? Do humans control the stars? Does any of that matter? And the reason I bring all of this up is because we're kind of going to trace potentially a group of people who have believed in this and have continued on in their footsteps.
I would like to thank chat for bringing up Aleister Crowley and then sex magic. So it's been a while since we've referenced butt sex magic on the show.
Mom, can you come pick me up? All the kids are doing butt sex magic.
This is a deep cut. From what was it? It was the
Skull and Crossbones one in the comment section.
Yeah.
That was my line, which I want to say I created a meme that has grown into something truly beautiful.
Yeah, and apparently survived the rebrand of the show. So I'm so glad to see that. Thank you, Brooke, for that.
Gypsy Princess astral magic. I guess she says makes sense, but it's a portal, poopy portal. I love you guys. First of all, second of all, I am blocking each and every one of you.
Very well gifted 5 subscriptions. Thank you so much. Brooke got one.
I guess
Princess got one.
Princess. Beryl says, doing my part to shove that stuff off the top of chat.
For those of you who are, I think that there's a couple, maybe 2 subscriptions that have not been given out yet because there are not enough active people in the chat. So I know there are around 40 people.
We see
2 of you, if you want to subscribe, if you want to gift a subscription, pop into the chat. You have you've been warned. You've got your
cowards.
Chance. Annie says, as a mod, do I delete every reference to butt sex?
You need to somehow pin them. I'm just kidding.
Yes, it has been an emotionally rough week, and yes, we do need a laugh. Earlier Agathusia said that the scrolls you were talking about have probably made their way to the Vatican, and I appreciated that she said that because I had that exact same thought that they were probably
Vatican has everything. I found some videos about like this weird mirror the Vatican has that seems
Right?
sketchy. So I
I've
kind
heard
of
about this.
feel like I want 5 minutes unintended there. Anywho, so Charles II, in late May 1660, he docks at Dover in England, and he's received with great celebration. And all the way to London, there's this giant royal procession, triumphal entry thing that's kind of leading into his birthday. We have eyewitness John Evelyn, who describes the scene in his diary. This is back when men were real men and kept diaries. He says, the way strewn with flowers, the bells ringing, the streets hung with tapestry, fountains running with wine, myriads of people flocking even so far as from Rochester. It was the Lord's doing, for such a restoration was never mentioned in any history, ancient or modern, since the return of the Jews from the Babylonian captivity. And describing the same scene, we have poet Andrew Marvell referring to Charles II as of a tall stature and sable hue, much like the son of Kish, that lofty Jew. He's referring to Cush or Nimrod, which is kind of funny because Nimrod wasn't a Jew because he wasn't descended from Abraham. So he was Semitic, but he wasn't Jewish.
Wait, no, but he was descended from Cain.
He was descended from your mom.
Whoa. Yeah, you have to be descended from Shem to be Semitic.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. You make some
So
good points.
how dare.
So,
How dare. Listed in anti-Semitism. Chat. Admonish. Admonish.
Oh, thank you for the subscription to my show, Variable. You're too kind.
No.
Genuinely thank you. Because I don't subscribe on my own to this show because I know who runs it. Anyway, Charles II, it seems, was being painted as some mix between the idea of the Jews returning from Babylonian captivity to rebuild Jerusalem and the temple there. But also he was being depicted as like a pre-Tower of Babel figure, almost as if, when we're conspiratorial enough, someone who it was hoped would return the world to its pre-Tower of Babel state. So this is why I bring this up for two reasons. This was very much in the psyche of the people of this time period, which was like the 1600s, of we are in charge of rebuilding the New Jerusalem. I think this is, all these people were post-millennial, of the idea of, we need to pave the way for the triumphal entry, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, in fact, for the Masons, the Tower of Babel was an important figure in their history because it symbolized for them this beacon of a quest for eternal, universal language. And the Masonic Old Charges, which is like their texts, Nimrod is Hermes. And he's the one to find the antediluvian pillars on which Lamech's children stored their knowledge in anticipation of the flood. This idea keeps kind of cropping up because I've also theorized myself and seen others theorize that like the pyramids might have been built to store knowledge into whether another flood, if another one happened or something like that.
I think that they were built pre-first flood. Personally,
I do now. Like, so previously I thought I was like preparing something, but yeah, there is Hancock makes a really good case for the Sphinx having gone through a flood and being pretty old. But it is an interesting implication that the Masons believe that Nimrod and Hermes are the same figure. I don't know exactly everything it means, but it is interesting.
Variable says that the sweater is too tiny.
Look. Yeah,
rude.
Is that the torso?
It is funny how often I'm knitting socks and people are like, "Are you knitting a sweater?" Like,
it does look like a sleeve
because it could be a sleeve, which it wouldn't be too small for a sleeve. But no, this is in fact a sock for a full-grown man. Like it's
a full-grown man with tiny feet. Variable says he wants a refund on my subscription. So
no
cash me outside. How about that? So where was I? Right. So sidestepping real quick to give some more background, because we're still kind of in the building stage. We're going to Alexander the Great. He has an interesting birth origin story. I'm going to gloss over it. You can look into it more. But his mother was Olympus. She was a high priestess of the temple oracle of Zeus Ammon at Dodona. So his mom was a hoe. Some stories go that his real father was Nekhtanebo II, the last native Egyptian pharaoh.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. There's like some stuff behind that of like he turned into a snake and that's how he conceived with his mother. I think people just had too much time on their hands. It
is interesting. Yeah. Alexander the Great was like explicitly prophesied in Daniel. And oh, hey, John's in the chat.
Ban that guy.
There's some like glorious purpose about Alexander the Great on a spiritual level that I think that we don't realize. I don't know. I feel like we were taught way more about him when I was kind of growing up in school, and now everyone just talks about Rome and they never talk about Alexander the Great. But he was really, really interesting.
Yes, he was. And possibly half snake.
And possibly half snake.
And also Agathusia, I think it was, says in the comments about, I believe they think Thoth is also the same. Yes, Thoth and Hermes, or however you pronounce it, they're like the Egyptian Greek version of each other. So yeah, they're connected. So Alexander the Great was religiously obsessed with Homer's The Odyssey. Like I think he had someone killed for disliking it or something like that. Don't quote me on that. It was something to do with that. And specifically the thing that he kind of fixated on was the mythical island off the coast of Egypt called Pharos in the Odyssey. So he chose the site of Alexandria, not because of sound military strategy, because that would be stupid, but because it brought to mind the island of Pharos. Like in his head, it was like I can build Pharos here.
So he was like obsessed with Lord of the Rings, except the Odyssey.
Yes, he was a nerd.
Yes.
So there's the statue of Aphrodite that was there. Aphrodite the stranger. I had so much trouble finding this for some reason. I felt like I was being gaslit. But it's considered to be also a statue of Isis. And because of this connection between Isis as the protector of Pharos, which was the lighthouse that was built there, which he named after the book, obviously, she became known as Isis Pharia, or Pharia Isis, protector of mariners. We're going to talk about why that name is important, Pharia Isis. But let's look at that article about the Isis statue.
Yes.
I'm going to pull it up on my own screen to, let's see, clicky click.
Isis, the lighthouse goddess.
Yes, so you can see if Abby scroll down a little bit. You see that coin? This is an image of that statue looking out over the lighthouse. This is kind of all I could find about this statue. It obviously doesn't exist anymore.
Was it that big?
It was big. I don't know if it was that big.
Gotcha.
It might have been.
In relation to the lighthouse, because on the coin she's like almost bigger than the lighthouse.
And I can't tell if that's stylized. So I remember, even before this book, I remember hearing about like an enormous statue of Isis that I would have thought sounded like it was this size, but it seems like either the internet is burying it for some reason, or I'm bad at looking, or I'm from a different universe. It was very hard to find. Like even the internet, like the AI was like, "There's never been a statue of Isis in Alexandria," and I was like, "I know that's not true."
Interesting.
Yeah. So but it's connected. I always heard it lumped in with the Lighthouse of Alexandria as part of the 7 wonders of the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe I'm just really bad at remembering things.
This seems like a really weird thing to kind of be disappearing out of the public knowledge.
It's very weird. But apparently this was like common for the coins to pick those two together.
Brooke asks, if you're half snake, are you still a lizard person? And the answer is yes. Alexander the Great was a lizard person. And confirmed.
No one else on this show is a lizard person.
Definitely not.
Not at all. There's a bug. Sure. Now, in this article, it does say between 1994 and 1998, archaeological divers in the Bay of Alexandria discovered a huge red granite torso of a woman, the base of an Isis statue, pieces of the Pharos itself, as well as the remains of a rock-cut temple that may very well be part of the Temple of Isis Pharia. So they did find some evidence of the statue having existed. But yeah, I remember, you know where I might have read more about it? Was the intro to A Treatise on Relics by John Calvin. The intro was not written by him. It's written by someone else. It's basically a novella. And I think it talks about the giant statue, but don't quote me on that.
Oh, interesting. So like kind of it exists in myth.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anywho, suffice it to say, Pharia Isis is your takeaway here. And also, I do kind of like the idea of there being a Mandela effect about the statue.
Right.
But if you could pull up that next picture, it's the Pharos. So when I say it's the Pharos, basically no one really knows what it looks like. So when I was looking it up, there were different artistic renditions of it. I liked this one because to me it recalls the Tower of Babel images, where it's a bit more rounded and etc. However, there is another picture to show you, which is a contemporaneous Pharos. So it's important to know, Pharos is the word that means lighthouse. So we know of the Pharos in Alexandria, but this is a Pharos, which is in Busir. So this is probably more likely what it looked like, because it seemed to have been built approximately at the same time.
Okay, I see.
So just like, kind of, in my opinion, underwhelming.
Yeah.
But,
Also, but I mean, we grew up in Maine. There's tons of beautiful lighthouses, and this is just like not even red and white striped.
Right. It's not even the right color. Duh. And it is worth noting I remember growing up with the whole like, oh my gosh, the lighthouse at Alexandria, the library at Alexandria, it burned, and all this knowledge was lost in one night. And actually, a lot of people didn't care about it by the time it burned. It had suffered extreme damage from consistent neglect. It had actually gone through several different fires. I think there was even a flood. Don't quote me on that. So the idea of all the knowledge being lost in one night, while very romantic, isn't true. Knowledge was wasted up to that point and not really valued, and then
That's why
lost.
Yeah.
Yes. So, because humans kind of suck more than we'd like to think we did. So there's an author, Jean Tristan, who says the Perusians received their name of Isis because of the cult of this goddess, which had been introduced in Illyria and in Gaul in the region next to the River Seine, and in Lutetia. That's not important, but basically they called Isis became Paris.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And there's even a fragment of a manuscript from Saint Hilaire that was written concerning the Council of Rimini, and this actually refers to the city of Paris as Pharisae Civitas, the city of the Parisians, or as it's later suggested, those who worship Isis Feria or Feria Isis.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're going to circle back to the connection between Paris and Isis. We're going to go on another little roundabout thingy thing. I believe Seder allowed a racism in chat. Let's go for it. Oh, it's a racism against lizard people. Yeah, that's fine. So let's talk about the Vatican obelisk. So we're not going to pull up the picture right away because I'm going to talk about it first and you'll see it. This one, I will say, it was a little hard to pull up research that really kind of backed up the claims that Hancock was making, but the claims he was making were cool, so they're worth going over. So the Vatican has an obelisk.
I hate it when really cool
Yes.
claims are made and then you're like, fact check
and
false.
I wouldn't say fact check false in this case because I think what he was saying is true. I just was having a hard time on Google. There's a specific the word hieroglyph, and I don't know if Google liked me, but you'll see.
Okay.
So the Vatican has an obelisk. That part is true. We do know that part. It's 25 meters tall, 320 tons, like certain people's moms. It's a single block of granite.
Not our mom.
No.
Like different other people's moms.
My mom
Satyrs
is
in particular.
Probably only 200 tons. I know of some people whose moms would not be allowed on the strongest truck they could drive. But anyway, that's beside the point. We'll just look at the axle ratings for your moms later. So this obelisk is one of 13 obelisks in Rome. This one is significant because its face has not been inscribed with any identifying hieroglyphics, which if you know anything about Egypt, that's kind of weird because they were always doing graffiti to mark like, I'm Emperor Awesome and I was here and special and etc. So Emperor Caligula had it brought to Rome, where he reigned like AD 12 to 41. So it was brought to Rome during that time, and it was erected in the Vatican Circus, which this is before the Vatican existed. It was called the Vatican Circus, and it was used for chariot racing.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Because circuses used to be just the circular.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and this like the I guess the word Vatican back then meant something very different in their minds because this was before, a religious city took place. So, and according to Pliny, this obelisk had been made for Nansorius, son of 12th dynasty Pharaoh Sesostris I. I refuse to pronounce any of these things correctly. This pharaoh had spearheaded the renovation of Anu, which is Heliopolis. This is why it's important that I'm bringing him up. Hancock and Bouval describe Heliopolis as the Vatican of its day.
Oh.
So like the equivalent in terms of like a religious city that controlled the area, this Heliopolis.
Sure.
Yeah. And this obelisk is really kind of all that remains of that city. So the Basilica of St. Peter was built on top of or overlapping the Vatican Circus. The Basilica of St. Peter is the Vatican as we know it, like their big church thingy. So this puts the obelisk at the south wall of the basilica. And Master Gregorius describes it being there in his 14th century account. So we know at that point it was there. And then into the late 16th century, the plans had been in place for a long time, but it took a while to get things off the ground. Pope Sixtus V had the obelisk moved to where it stands today. Pope Nicholas V's vision before him had been that the obelisk should rest on 4 bronze statues of the evangelists, with an enormous statue of Jesus done in bronze holding a golden cross at the top. Sixtus's vision was to make Rome the finest city in Europe and to elevate.
What in the
St.
syncretism is that?
Basilica. Your mom? Oh, yeah, syncretism. My brain was like, I don't know that word. Yeah, the idea of incorporating an Egyptian religious thing into I don't understand the reasoning.
It's not just like vaguely Egyptian religious. It's like
It's extremely
explicitly phallic and Thank you to Grincess for saying, so in one episode, we have astral magic, priestly hoe, and Vatican phallus.
Also, Vatican. So sorry. Variable says, if anyone needs to buy a semi-trailer to transport your mom, I can sell you one with a weight rating of 115,000 pounds.
I think that's very helpful.
That
That's
is
a really
very
helpful
helpful.
offer, and really, some of you need to take him up on that.
Some of you. I'm not naming any names, but it's Abby. I mean,
I thought we already said our mom was not that heavy.
yeah, but it's good to have her safe. Anyway,
It's good to have her safe.
Sorry, Mom. I love you, despite all the words that come out of my mouth to the contrary. Sixtus's vision was to make Rome the finest city in Europe, and he wanted to really elevate the basilica. So he redesigns the whole city, and he organizes a series of avenues that radiate like spokes from a wheel with obelisks at their heads. So it's like the center point. And this is where you get to pull up the picture so you can see kind of what I'm talking about here. Ta-da! So you see like the white lines and the shape and everything. So leave that up for our viewing pleasure. So rather than the 4 statues of the Vandalists that had been envisioned, he used, you are fired.
I closed it. I X'd it.
I ever told you that you are my mom's least favorite oldest daughter?
I accidentally hit the X button, you guys. Was it the obelisk in layout? I think it was this one. Yes, right. Yeah. Yes, it was this one.
So okay, I'll talk about maybe unfiring you. Just in the meantime, you're fired. Yes. So where was I before you? So
I'm gonna actually make this big.
Yeah, go for it,
so that people can like really see it.
Yeah, that is actually helpful. And there's another angle I'll show of it in a bit. But yeah. So instead of the statues of the evangelists that had been kind of envisioned by the previous pope, he used 4 lions around a stone pedestal as the base of the obelisk. And instead of the statue of Jesus at the top, he took the sphere that had been at the top and once had been believed to contain the ashes of Julius Caesar, which, why was that there in the first place? I don't know. I didn't look into that. And instead he filled it with alleged fragments of the true cross. And there's enough fragments of the true cross to build like a couple forests. So, there's enough to go around. So then he placed that sphere, on that sphere, the symbol of a star over 3 mountains, which was his own family's heraldic symbol. And then he placed a golden cross over that. So I don't know how, I'd have to look. You can't really see it. It's a very small golden ball at the top.
Well, I think we had another image of it.
Maybe, but that's cheating if you look ahead. I mean, it's fine if you look at it now, but
no, so I won't, because it's not actually that helpful.
Yeah, it's a golden ball with a cross coming out of it. It's not super visually interesting, but
it's like the way that you could think of the way that we've been talking about symbols as like kind of like woo woo or whatever, but Catholicism does this. Like they use the symbols in this very like what is it? Intentional manner. Yeah.
Anytime someone goes out of their way to do an extensive amount of symboling, they're not just doing it because like, oh, and this will look pretty next and this will look pretty here. There's like a reasoning to why each thing is there.
Right.
So yeah. I mean, that's a super obvious thing to say. But anyway, so no doubt, unwittingly, he had just raised something that he would have recognized if at the time they had understood Egyptian hieroglyphs. So by placing by placing the cross on top of the obelisk, he had created a symbol that represented the name of Anu Heliopolis. The symbol was still missing something, as it usually also includes a circle or ellipse measured out in 8ths, the hieroglyphic sign for a city, which you see that now in the way things are kind of written out on the thing. So I might have gotten my timeline a little mixed up. So anyway, doesn't matter. His mistake would seem innocent enough had it not been for 70 years after his death, when Pope Alexander VII commissioned Lorenzini to redesign St. Peter's Square. So I guess that's when the lines are put down.
Okay.
So first of all, let's look at that symbol for Heliopolis. So you can kind of see there, it's broken down, but it's that the obelisk type shaped pillar with a thing coming out of it that could be like a diamond, but you could, replace it with a cross. There's the segmented into 4 base, and then the circly thing, and they all go together to make the symbol for Heliopolis. I tried to find better symbolism. Unfortunately, the internet failed me. But let's look at another angle of the Vatican obelisk situation.
The one I was thinking about showing a minute ago.
And this shows a little better the base, how it is divided into 4. And you've got the phallic thing on top with the circle and the cross. So I can see, I would need to see exactly what Graham Hancock was looking at to really see the hieroglyphic symbol, but I can see the argument for it. This was kind of it's an odd amount of coincidence.
Yeah. And you're saying this is a symbol for Heliopolis, and the significance of that was that,
the idea of the city of the sun. So we'll be looking at it more, but basically the idea of trying to build something that calls down this vision of the city of the sun. Like,
okay,
people throughout the years trying to achieve this constant vision.
Okay.
So Bernini, the sculptor, he created an elliptical arrangement of freestanding colonnades around it, and his work was interrupted briefly, but when he came back, that's how he set up the plaza.
Okay.
So the question is, could this be merely coincidence on top of coincidence, or were people orchestrating these things as an ancient and secret tradition who had retained the knowledge of Egyptian hieroglyphs, even as they lost their meaning to the rest of the world until the 19th century? So in a quote from the book, Anno Heliopolis was the archetypical city of the sun that Giordano Bruno and Tommaso Campanella had been determined to restore. They were like the Hermeticists of the day. The defiant act of writing the name of Heliopolis in invisible language in the midst of the Vatican's proudest stronghold is precisely the sort of symbolic and talismanic guerrilla warfare that we would expect of the members of such a network. So the idea is, are we seeing the members of a network at work, or is this just a bunch of coincidence? And we'll kind of evaluate more things further on.
And I don't think it necessarily has to be a network to be syncretism.
Right. Well, the other thing is syncretism, and it ties in today with like a lot of people talking about like the deep state and this giant conspiracy. And it's like most humans are probably acting individually, thinking that they're creative and special. But if there's anything demonic behind it, then that's the overarching thing people are following.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the idea of like, is there a spirit jumping from culture to culture, trying the same thing over and over again? That maybe the same spirit that did try to do Tower of Babel is constantly trying to do all this stuff continually. So now let's talk about the French Revolution.
That's quite a jump.
Or as I call it, Egypt Rising.
Egypt
So
Rising.
I thought I knew about the French Revolution because like I read the Scarlet Pimpernel and all that stuff. But there was some stuff that I didn't realize was the case in this. And probably y'all are going to be like, you're stupid because I knew this already. But in the 14th of July, 1789, this is when the Bastille was swarmed. And this started, a whole chain of events. Over the next few weeks, the Bastille is torn down stone by stone. The initial idea was to use the stones to build a pyramid. Oh, I didn't know that. But eventually, they settle on something much more sane. A statue of Isis whose nipples are fountains. And it was called the Fountain of Regeneration. And the idea was that people would, in quotes, drink from her fertile breasts the pure and salutary liquor of regeneration. Isn't that fun? That's super normal.
Gross.
So
it's always the spirit cooking stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, this marked the change of gods in charge of the city, in my opinion. To me, that's pretty obvious. I not to keep constantly like bashing Catholics, but there was that priest who talked about how he had a vision of Mary and her breasts swollen with milk, and like she was squirting him with it or something, and it was like, okay.
There's artwork of it. It's so gross.
There's enough of Mary's breast milk saved to cause a lot of questions. Breast milk saved. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, guys, she didn't even have like a pump.
They didn't have a pump back then?
Like,
then how did they pump it? Anyway, sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm not that dumb. Close, but not quite. So in 1973, a strong campaign, this shouldn't be 1973, 1773 is probably, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about the day. It's fine. It's fine.
He says, now we have nipple fountains. This show has really, it keeps delivering.
I pulled out all the stops. If I can't speak, but I can give you nipple fountains, and it kind of works out. So there was a strong campaign that was begun whenever in the year. I don't know what year it was because my notes look wrong. A campaign was begun to de-Christianize France. This was all part of this new goddess taking over, seeking to stamp out the competition, in my opinion. So this cult of reason, also known as the cult of the supreme being, it took place, and it followed the installation of the Isis statue that we talked about with the nipples, in case you'd forgotten.
Oh yeah, I had actually begun to forget about the nipple statue of Isis.
That's why I was worried you'd forget. Yeah. So the goddess Sybil, who's like a Phrygian version of Isis, she's often identified with her in the medieval Renaissance stuff. So you'd see a lot of iconography of the revolution that would feature either Isis or Sybil or both, like symbolism that would tie them together. And this, I can give you one example of what their kind of iconography looked like if you want to pull up the link under the genie.
There is a penis.
I apologize. I forgot about the penis. It's tiny though. So you see he's holding Isis or Sybil, and the idea of like she's the inspiration for this thing. So I think this one is basically she's crowning him.
Huh.
It's called the Genie de la République, and it's gay, and you can take it off screen now if you want. But just to give an idea of kind of the weird gay art, France has always been gay.
It's also kind of pedophilic because
I didn't think
the
about
size
that.
ratio between. I'm not going to bring it back up, but
Yeah,
the size ratio between her and him, she's very much a child size. Ooh,
yeah, that is weird.
Do not like it.
This is just my
variable says there is a penis. Proceeds to zoom in. Hey, I was trying to zoom in on her. It's not my fault the penis is there.
Liz did the notes. What is wrong with Liz?
Exactly.
In my defense, I didn't have a magnifying glass, so I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So the Cult of Reason, it took over from 1793 to 1794. It was insane. There were processions and street theaters, and they'd feature like an actress or statue that would be dressed as the goddess Reason in a freaking headdress, being towed to religious buildings. And in November 7, there's a bishop of Paris who was forced to recant, and this kind of started this long attack on the church, where in the end over 20,000 priests were either forced to recant or they joined the cult.
Wow. Okay, I think it was not Scarlet Pimpernel, but it was book 2.
Oh,
there was a procession of this goddess Reason, I think, in the first
yes, that makes sense.
Scene, I want to say.
Also, Variable says this is the best episode of Alternatively I've seen all day.
How many have you watched today?
We don't need to ask questions like that. It's fine. So there's at one point there's a famous actress, Mille Aubry, who dresses up as Sybil/Isis, and they take her up to this temple that they've dedicated to philosophy, and they put her on a throne, and everyone bows to her. And then after this, there's a ceremony in the Cathedral of Notre Dame where it's declared the Temple of Reason. And there's been like several of these ceremonies during this whole thing. So it's just like, it's more than just people being like, Vive la Révolution and stuff. It's just weird debauchery, and everyone was briefly insane.
Princess says I definitely needed this episode, and I have questions as to why Princess needed this episode.
Nipple fountains. If you look at Princess's profile picture on this, it is the long-armed woman with long baby inside, and the baby is staring out the woman's nipples. So I just feel like this speaks to her heart.
A lot about Princess, I think.
Yes, we love you, Princess. One of us loves you at least.
But we love Princess.
Yes. So in June 8, 1794. So this is actually before. No. This is after the November thing. I know the passage of time.
Oh my goodness.
There's
Get it together, Liz.
Impossible. So we're going to just have to jot that one down. There's a first official celebration held in honor of the Supreme Being and France's new Republican calendar. So it's notable that after the French Revolution, France changed their calendar to something that mirrored the Egyptian solar calendar. You can actually see some echoes of this in the metro system. Some of their stations are still named after some of those days, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah. And also it is worth noting, so they're referring to like the Supreme Being. That's the terminology that the Masons use, the Freemasons. You just have to believe in a God, a Supreme Being. And they just
they don't care.
They make they say they don't care, but they make this generic Supreme Being. And I think basically what they're trying to indicate is they want you capable of belief, but they have a specific one for you to believe in.
Right. Like they're going to funnel you into it. They just don't want an atheist.
They don't want an atheist, and they want someone who's fine with being like, oh yeah, I believe that we maybe all worship under different names, the same being who is the Supreme Being. Anyway. So during this official celebration, there was a sermon preached at the Tuileries Garden Amphitheater in front of the Louvre Palace. And the sermon concluded with like a cloth statue that was meant to represent atheism being burned, revealing a stone statue underneath meant to represent wisdom. So this is an interesting thing of the Greeks and the Romans at the time of Christianity taking over considered Christians to be committing like the sin of atheism because they didn't believe in all these gods. And it was like ridiculous to be an atheist. So I think it's funny that like when France went through this revolution, it didn't throw off God in favor of atheism. It acted again as if it was treating Christianity like atheism and was going back to the old gods, sort of thing.
Interesting.
Yes, a little backwards. It's relatively new for people to like be publicly atheist. That's kind of the last couple
Yeah,
hundred
and
years.
it's really, I think, a product of World War One.
Yes, yeah.
World War One and World War Two, but specifically World War One was just so horrific. I think people were like, there cannot be a God.
Yeah.
Which they were wrong, but you can understand why someone would conclude that having seen what they saw.
Yes. Yeah, everyone got depressed after the war, understandably so. Also, I'm briefly distracted because there is like on my second monitor, the background picture is this really chubby lion cub, and it's looking directly at me with its soulful eyes. It sort of.
It's like a really chubby Simba, and it's a very good photo.
Yeah. Anyway, so there was an altar that was being raised. Oh, I went back too far. So at this official ceremony, there was like a choir. The Paris Opera sang this song with the lyrics: "Father of the universe, supreme intelligence, benefactor unknown to mortals, you will reveal your existence to those who alone raise altars in your name." Isn't that kind of weird?
Yes.
Yeah. So the altar being referenced here was an enormous artificial mountain in the Champ de Mars. The Eiffel Tower, with its pyramidal base, stands on that site now. Representatives from all 48 districts of Paris, led by Robespierre, who's like involved with all of this, accompanied by those of the convention, climbed the mountain and then raised Robespierre at the summit alongside a Tree of Liberty, while this, like the Paris Opera Choir, sang these patriotic hymns. And in the iconography of this period, it's often depicted like the all-seeing eye displayed above the Tree of Liberty. The all-seeing eye that we see in like the Illuminati and Masonry and all that fun stuff.
On the American money.
Yes. It would also, in this iconography, you'd also see it displayed inside like a glowing triangle or a pyramid hanging in the sky above the scene. This is the same symbol, an eye in a pyramid, that where do we see that nowadays?
The money?
On the dollar bill. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And before that, on the Great Seal of the United States, which was designed by a committee in 1776. And it was featured on the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen in 1789. So it gets around. It's an important symbol. Like it's not accidentally. They weren't just like, oh, it's cool. It's one time. It's deeply meaningful to whoever chose it.
I think that there's this line that people don't seem to understand in like modern day conspiracy discourse, where it's like there are symbols that have meant something for thousands of years, and when you see those symbols popping up, they mean something.
Yes, they're a calling card.
But then there's like the people who are like, oh, this place where Charlie was killed looks vaguely like a menorah. This means something. And it's like, no, it doesn't, you idiot. Like,
I saw the mocking text that, what's his face? Was it James, the anti-commie guy?
Oh, James Lindsay. Yeah.
Thank you. Where he does like a fake text exchange of like, hey, can you just like sit here like for a reason? Like, don't worry about it. Like, just I need you to sit at the place that looks like a menorah. Or just trust me, bro.
It's it's so unbelievably stupid.
The symbols aren't accidental. So you don't have to sit and be like, this kind of looks like the symbol.
Right.
Ignore this when you go back and trust me blindly on the hieroglyph thing. But in all other things, you don't have to look hard for the symbol. It's going to be really obvious because that's the point of a symbol.
Right.
So where was I? Oh yeah. So there is one surviving 1789 poster that depicts the all-seeing eye with the words "Être supreme," which is supreme being, over it. And in this depiction, the eye is inside like a solar disc above the pyramid, and it also depicts Voltaire and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I didn't find that poster, but I did find an example of this kind of iconography. If you like to click
yes. $20 rumble rant from Sater. Agby, please ask Luz to stop saying French words like a French person. Liz, please stop saying French words like a French person.
Absolument pas. C'est ridicule. Tais-toi.
Anyway. Juste parce que tu dis ça en français.
Okay. Anyway, can you show us the picture?
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That's fine. You had more important things to do.
I did.
So this idea of this is Prière de Voltaire. Oh Dieu, quand it's too small for you. I have to pull it up on my thingy thing.
$21 rumble rant from Variable 5. Counter offer. Say the French words even more Frenchy. I think Liz was already doing that before you sent that rumble rant.
Let's see. This is a prayer from Voltaire. Oh Dieu, quand me connais, oh Dieu, que tu annonces, entends les derniers mots que ma bouche prononce. So listen to the last words my mouth has said. Oh God, who listens to me or whatever. Si je me suis trompé, c'est en cherchant ta loi. Mon cœur c'est guerre, mais il est plein de toi. It's full of you. My heart is full of you. I'm looking for you, something like that. If I fail in looking for you, my heart is in the right place. I'm kind of guessing some of these words here. Je vois son malarmé, l'éternité paraître. Je vois son. Oh, I look at eternity without fear or alarm. Et je ne peux penser qu'en Dieu qui m'a fait naître. I
Naître
can't.
is birth?
Yeah, I can't think of the God who made me born. Am I saying that right? Quand Dieu que sur mes jours verrai toute la bienfait, quand mes jours sont éternels, me tourmente à jamais. Something torments him forever. There's some stains on this. That's my excuse. And also, I've been skipping my Duolingo.
Satyr with a $50 robo rant. No!
Thank you, Satyr. So what I'm hearing is I should do more French at you guys.
I mean, if it's making us this much money, we haven't made this much money in Rumble Rant since
last time we made this much money.
No, since I read Demon Smut. Apparently, all I had to do was speak French. You
Read
guys,
it in French. Variable says, "What have I done?" he regrets. So basically, the idea. Voulez-vous chez avec moi? Yes, I nailed it.
French words that they love you. Chat is amazing tonight.
So yeah, basically this poster is Voltaire praying to the Supreme Being, and the Supreme Being is a glowing triangle.
I think we do have to respect Satyr's $50 Rumble Rant. No more French. If there's more French, I will read it, and I will
read
do
it
a
badly.
different accent.
Come on, parlez-vous. Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop torturing you guys. So, as an aside, this is interesting. It's kind of connected to the Freemasonry. There are 3 French royal houses / races because French is multiple races. We could be racist against them in more than one way. There's the Merovingian, Carolingian, and Capetian. Capiche? So part of modern-day Belgium was where the ancient Merovingian capital was. In 1653, a treasure was found there. Artifacts believed to be from the tomb of King Childeric, who was the father of Clovis, who's technically the one who started that dynasty. The treasures inside included a statue of Isis in a golden apis bowl. Nearby at Saint-Price, dozens of golden bees were found. So bees in ancient Egypt represented the tears of Ra. He cried bees, Abby. Do you think that that's a comfortable condition? Should we be maybe more considerate of him because he cried bees? Anyway.
Sounds awful.
Oh no, I'm crying. Were these stinging me?
Were these Babylon bees by any chance?
Yes, hopefully. And so the hieroglyphics.
Waving the white Annie says waving the white flag on speaking French is actually the most French thing you can do.
Honestly. Yeah. Where was I? So yes, he cried bees. And the symbol, the hieroglyphic symbol of the bee was what made up part of the pharaoh's cartouche. So the cartouche is like all the little hieroglyphs that make up their name, and then it's circled with a circle, and you know it's a name, a cartouche, if it's circly. This is my official what's the word? Application to become an Egyptologist. Variable says every single gear on a French transmission is R. The French actually, when they go into battle, you know that their typical flag looks like, but when they go into battle, their battle flag is just white because it's like just saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
So
look, I'm not saying Hitler was right, but like maybe he was right to invade France.
Oh, to invade France. Yeah. You had me worried for a moment there that you were going to say something bad.
Look, I'm not racist against the French. I just don't think they have the right to have a country, you know?
Yeah.
Like I just think that they're gay.
I think it's fine for them to practice their religion. I just don't think that they should exist as a people group.
Yeah. I think that they should just.
This is about France, right?
Yeah. I think Hitler was 100% right about France.
The enemy, my enemy is still my enemy, but sometimes he does favors for me accidentally by being the enemy of my enemy. Before we get canceled and community noted, Variable says Putin invades the Ukraine, France surrenders.
Yes. So when somewhere.
Yes. No.
Oh, I have to brag about this. Okay, this is like 2 years ago.
No.
Brooke, $1 Rumble Rant. It was really bothering me that the amount of money was an odd number.
Thank you. Someone cares about reason here.
About 2 years ago, I wrote a headline for the Babylon Bee like community forum
Mhm.
internally,
Yes.
that was like it was breaking France surrenders to Hamas, and it was featured on their website. It's my one featured article. I was really proud of it. 2 years later, and France declared that they were going to allow immigration from Palestine. And I was like, I wrote a Babylon Bee article that came true, you guys. So variable with a $1 Rumble Rant. Now you have to donate another $1 to make it even again.
You monsters, all of you.
Oh my goodness.
Speaking of Babylon Bee headlines, I'm still sad that my headline didn't make it, because I was like, Tesla introduces new feature that auto locks your car when a black person walks by, because he's supposedly really racist.
Wait.
No,
Grincess added $1. Now I like odd, but Grincess made it even. So when Brooke donated her $1 to make it even, she actually made it odd again. And then, oh no, Variable donated $5. Now it's super even. I think it's even.
So we do the math. Okay, let's see.
Is it even now?
41, 91, 92, 93, 94, 99. It might be uneven now.
I don't know. I don't know.
Everybody panic.
I've never made so much money on a live stream before, you guys. I don't know what to do.
Somebody get my mom. I have to tell her I'm famous. Okay. So bees, before we get too distracted, but also
it should be $100 even. Okay.
Let me know if they're fighting. Okay, it should be $100 even. Yeah, maybe one already expired. Oh yeah, the ones go fast, so probably one of them already went off the top of the screen. Okay. So they find this treasure with the Isis and the golden apis bull, and then nearby they find a dozen golden bees. Bees are
Babylon bees.
I'm just okay. That's how we got there. Okay.
Needing to clarify.
How we got off track.
Okay.
No, you're fine. I was actually glad that, because I was like, how were we talking about this? So even to the 17th century French court, these were recognizably Egyptian finds. Like, this is before a lot of Egyptology had taken on, but this prompted the idea for them that the Merovingian dynasty could be tied back to the solar cults of Egypt. But let's look at something else that uses beehives as their symbology. Can you pull up that next link? Where is my mouse? My mouse escaped.
Somebody
get me some cheese. I can't find my mouse.
This is the Babylon Beehive.
Yes. They are secretly Masonic cult. Yeah. So
I'm making the joke about like, obviously the publication of Babylon, but
yes,
Babylon was like heavily into these mystery cults, right? So it could be, they could be Babylon bees, guys.
You never know. But this idea of we see the bee, I say bee
beehive
is it gonna make you?
I'm fine.
Bee.
I'm fine.
It all ties back to Babylon. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I just it's fine.
Ties back and forward to Babylon.
Yes, it's all a circle. And you're living in it. This has been The Twilight Zone with Liz and Abby. So R.F. Scherer in 1901, he illustrated the original interior of the Supreme Grand Royal Arch Chapter of Scotland in Edinburgh. I couldn't find that illustration, but basically it shows that they based this Royal Arch Chapter on an Egyptian temple. We're going to see some examples where we do see what we're talking about here. But on the walls were depicted scenes of Osiris from the Book of the Dead. And then we have the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. It's also done in Egyptian style. It's got a winged Uraeus on the floor. And then there's many other Freemason Royal Arch Lodges that have Egyptian style. So
was I supposed to be showing this image?
You can show it now. I was going to come toward it. Yeah. So this is an example of, which one is this? One is a Scottish temple, I think, if I'm looking at the quote right. So yeah, done in the Egyptian style with like the pillars and I don't have to explain it. It's Egyptian. If you don't know what Egyptian looks like, I don't know what your condition is, but I don't want it.
If you don't know what an Egyptian walks like, that's worse.
Yeah, and if you don't know the song about how they walked, get off my page. We are going to circle back. You can leave the imagery up if you want. We are going to circle back to more of that because I have examples later on when we get to the American section. But a quick side note here. So the Masonic name Jabulon, they referred to like sometimes I think it was their supreme being, they referred to him as Jabulon. And people are like, where do you get that name from? First of all, very nerd alert name.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of back and forth. We have an anti-Masonic author, Stephen Knight, who points out that the ancient Egyptians knew Osiris as the Lord of On, And later he observed that there was an Egyptian holy city named On, which we now know as Heliopolis. On is referred to in the Bible.
Oh.
Yes. Martin Short believes Jabulon means God, the Lord of On, or he who is Lord of On. Now, the majority of Freemasons will deny that this means anything nefarious, and that the Egyptian depictions in Freemason rituals, they'll say they're only there for symbolic purposes. It's a lot of symbols, though. What are the purposes of the symbols? Like, there's a reason why you have the symbols. Anyway, the Masonic old charges talk about Jabal, the descendant of Lamech, whom they refer to as the founder of geometry. So one of the other terms that they have for the supreme being is the great geometrician or something. They will often depict, they'll have a G, and it'll mean either God or geometry. It's like they almost worship geometry. Jabal's geometry, supposedly, is preserved on 2 pillars, which were rediscovered by Hermes, the father of wise men, after the flood. We referenced this earlier with Nimrod. And they'll claim that Moses later brought this knowledge out to Egypt, or out of Egypt.
Oh.
So Hancock and Bouval draw a connection here between these 2 antediluvian pillars and the obelisks at the Temple of Heliopolis. There were, I guess, 2. And the Bible, I mentioned the Bible refers to Heliopolis as On. So Jabulon might be a reference to Jabal and On, connecting the patriarch to the city of the sun. So this is kind of like the conspiracy around it, but there's nothing that's proven or definite.
Interesting.
But it's kind of an interesting, like, what else would it be? So Alessandro Cagliostro, he was like a big guy in Freemasonry. He was the one who opened the way for women's lodges in 1775 when he began the Egyptian Rite Lodge for women. He had a woman dress up as Isis for the rituals, which included a 40-day rejuvenation ritual, which was modeled on the ancient Egyptian embalming ritual, which took 40 days.
Ew.
Because many believed it was Isis who invented embalming. And this rite became massively popular. Because this
because he embalmed Osiris, but she couldn't find his penis, and that's what the obelisks are. That's the whole lore, guys.
Yeah, she needed to find his penis because she was like, it's just not the same without it. I just feel sadness, and she made like a fake one out of the stars or something. And that's where the why the obelisks are a thing or whatever. I did get a lobotomy after doing that research, so most of it's gone. But yeah, this was really popular with the women because while witchcraft is defaced now, back then it was like seances and Egyptian rites and all of this weird stuff. Women, stop it. Just don't do that. So I'm going to say this very maturely, and everyone is going to understand this very maturely.
Okay.
The occultist Manly P. Hall.
Got it. Got it. Mm-hmm. Very mature.
You could not say it in any other way. It's clearly Manly P. Hall. Also, side note, Instantator says Egyptians are what Palestinians were before they moved to Israel post World War II. Yes. And now Egypt has walls built so they can't get back because they're like, we don't want you anymore. Anyway, so Manly P. Hall. Manly Fall. Manly Fall said about Cagliostro. This is a long quote, but it's interesting. He founded the Egyptian Rite of Freemasonry, which received into its mysteries many of the French nobility and was regarded favorably by the most learned minds of Europe. Having established the Egyptian Rite, Cagliostro declared himself to be an agent of the Order of the Knights Templar and to have received initiation from them on the Isle of Malta. Called upon the carpet by the Supreme Council of France, it was demanded of Cagliostro that he prove by what authority he had founded a Masonic lodge in Paris independent of the Grand Orient, which was the head of the lodge at that day. Of such surpassing mentality was Cagliostro that the Supreme Council found it difficult to secure an advocate qualified to discuss with Cagliostro philosophic masonry and the ancient mysteries he came to represent. He was so knowledgeable about this stuff, they were not able to debate him. Court de Gebelin, the greatest Egyptologist of his day and an authority on ancient philosophies, was chosen as the outstanding scholar. A time was set and the brethren convened. Attired in an oriental coat and a pair of violet-covered breeches, Cagliostro was hauled before this council of his peers. Court de Gebelin asked 3 questions and then sat down, admitting himself disqualified to interrogate a man so much his superior in every branch of learning. Cagliostro then took the floor, revealing to the assembled Masons not only his personal qualifications, but prophesying the future of France. He foretold the fall of the French throne, the reign of terror, and the fall of the Bastille.
Oh, wow.
At a later time, he revealed the dates of the death of Marie Antoinette and the king, and also the advent of Napoleon. Having finished his address, Cagliostro made a spectacular exit, leaving the French Masonic Lodge in consternation and utterly incapable of coping with the profundity of his reasoning. That happens with me a lot with people. Me being incapable of coping with the profundity of their reasoning. Though no longer regarded as a ritual in Freemasonry, the Egyptian Rite is available, and all who read it will recognize its author to have been no more a charlatan than was Plato. These are some big words.
Those are
I
some
know
big
some
words.
of them. But basically the idea here, I mean, Manly P hole is like not the greatest source, but if this is all true, it takes it from this random guy being like, yeah, I'm gonna bring Egyptian stuff in for the women folk to this guy carrying on a deeper tradition than even like most of Masonry knew about. Yeah.
Well, there seems to be a general like idea in occultism that like everything traces back to Egypt somehow.
Yes. Yeah. Just like I want to say like a very condensed, concentrated set of beliefs and stuff that have gradually like seeped out into everything. Maybe that's the vision I'm getting. Also, speaking of things tying back to Egypt, we have the Coeur de Gebelin. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but you guys told me to stop saying French things. So he was like the Egyptologist of the day, member of the Nine Sisters Lodge, which was Masonic. He believed that the system of tarot actually originated in Egypt.
Interesting.
And he believed that the star, which is usually labeled 16 in Roman numerals, was meant to be Isis Sirius. And then he like basically is the father of the modern tarot system, which he claimed he was basing on Egypt, I guess. I'm not 100% sure how that worked, but basically his tarot got incorporated by the Scottish Rite over time. They were doing witchcraft. So let's start talking about, we're going to move a little bit towards America. There's still some going backwards, but George Washington. So the Masonic researcher Martin Short writes in Inside the Brotherhood about George Washington. His funeral in 1799 had been conducted according to Masonic rites. The coffin had been draped with a Masonic apron given to him by a brother revolutionary and Mason, the Marquis de Lafayette, and the many Masons presented each
also
Lafayette. Lafayette. And the many Masons present each cast a sprig of acacia to symbolize both Osiris's resurrection and Washington's own imminent resurrection in the realm where Osiris presides. That's not just symbolism. That's literally just practicing Egyptian religion. There's only so many times you can do it ironically before it's not ironic. You know,
and the Washington Monument is an obelisk. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, and we're gonna mention that more. But yeah, it's Osiris, the obelisk. It's all coming together now. Let's briefly talk about the Illuminati, because there was actually a real Illuminati. There's several. So there was a Masonic sect that was known as the Illuminati of Avignon. They had a Hermetic ritual of perfection, which is like what we talked about.
Does Seder mean nothing Cathars. To you? You Avignon.
Avignon. I apologize. I'm so sorry, Seder. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry. So yeah, they had a Hermetic ritual of perfection, which is like what we talked about in the Gnosticism episode, where they had the perfecti and they had like stuff like that. Then we have the Illuminati of Bavaria. They were founded in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt, who was an ex-Jesuit. Their mission was basically to create massive global reform, or to put it another way, to create a novus ordum seclorum, New World Order. I butchered the Latin to make up for the French. Weishaupt's name appears in Thomas Jefferson's writings, together with the notion of making men wise and virtuous, language found in Weishaupt's own mission statement. So you can sort of see there's like some cryptic of ideals. Thomas Jefferson, who was known as man of raison par excellence. So sorry. Reason par excellence. She
cannot help herself. Oh my gosh.
I'm so sorry. You can just mute me when I talk. It's fine. Unsubscribed and blocked. Yes, Ada, that's fair. I will try to pronounce everything incorrectly from now on. So the man of reason par excellence.
There we go.
It rests now with ourselves alone to enjoy in peace and concord the blessings of self-government, so long denied to mankind, to show by example the sufficiency of human reasoning for the care of human affairs. This idea of like gnosis or reason.
Okay, but did you get the conspiracy theory there? There's raisins and concord, which is concord grapes. And this is obviously a link to like wine, and wine is a link to. Anyway.
Side note, I found a meme on my phone where someone accidentally made the bread for communion with raisins in it. So it was 2-in-1 Jesus bread and good stuff. And apparently the priest holding it up was like, everything, this bread, except for the grapes, is the body of Jesus.
Except for the grapes.
Yeah. It reminds me of the time. If I'm recalling correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't actually, because it's a fun story. In Ivory Coast, there was one time where someone making the bread for communion accidentally used like soap powder, instead of
Yes.
yes.
Okay, there was
Okay,
something
so I'm not
very
hallucinating
wrong
that.
with she used, like, laundry powder.
Yeah.
And everyone was like
Exactly that. That was exactly what happened. Entertainer says stick therapy. You meant to say shock therapy, but stick therapy, we're gonna go with that. You just
stick therapy sounds
beat
better.
the person with sticks. They don't have to be big sticks. They can be.
Theodore Roosevelt would say they do need to be big sticks.
Walk bigly and carry a soft stick. Yeah.
Something like that.
Also, apparently, because we want to send all the leftists to Texas, we also lost variables a subscriber. Who could have foreseen this?
Annie Googled stick therapy.
Oh, good times to be had by all. We're all having fun together as a group of fun people. Anyway. Oh yeah,
sock progress.
Your tiny sweater sleeve.
Tiny sweater progress.
So at the same time, we have the Illuminati of Bavaria, which is a mix of Freemasons and Jesuits. They're sending missionaries all through Europe because they like their days to travel and proselytize in the same way like the Rosicrucians did, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And
they even use pseudonyms. For instance, Weishaupt was Spartacus. So he'd be like, I am Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. Their headquarters were in Ingolstadt, which they called Eleusis, and they called Bavaria Egypt. And the church, and interesting enough, so when I say the church, I mean like the Catholic Church. Interestingly enough, the Jesuits very much oppose this order. The church is very opposed to Freemasonry in general. It's believed grounds for immediate excommunication. Anyway, while the people claim that the Eye of Providence in the pyramid symbol was the Illuminati's insignia, and that the documents that could prove this were confiscated and are now kept hidden from the public, the Hermeticists and Kabbalists had been making use of the symbol in the centuries prior. So this has been like a long-standing symbol. Is Abby saying mean things about me in chat?
No.
Good, because I would never be able to stand that. Anyway, so let's remember that date. So the Bavarian Illuminati were founded in 1776. Does that sound like a special year at all for anyone? A special year?
I'm so bad with dates.
Oh, you're. I forgot. I didn't recognize your name, and I was like, okay, yeah, I saw your mom. I did. Speaking of which, not to dox myself, but to dox myself, that singer Noah Kahan or whatever, he has the exact same birthday as me, like month, day, year, exact same birthday. I want to know what day he was. I mean, what hour he was born, to see if I have to fight him. Anyway, so the Bavarian Illuminati, they were founded in 1776. Does that sound like an important date to you, Abby? Anything happened in
1776? Oh, July, like, yeah, the Declaration of Independence, yeah, those things, yeah.
Yeah. So that same year is the year that, in July, that the Eye of the Providence was suggested for the Great Seal of America by the Swiss Pierre-Eugene Cimetière. See, I said it in the American pronunciation. Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson both were members of this committee. They were in charge of the Great Seal. During that July, Franklin had gone to Paris and celebrated Masonic lodges. He was celebrated in Masonic lodges as like a hero of the American Revolution. So we're like, it's a very tenuous connection, but like, is this a connection with the Illuminati where they took over? So most people believe that the Illuminati of Bavaria disappeared after being outlawed, but others think they parasitized the Masonic lodges in order to bring about the French Revolution. And there is actually a lot of, I did not have time to go to the breakdown. When you look at the Master Game breakdown of the leading factors going into French Revolution, it is really hard to be like, did I think the Masons actually were involved. So here's a quote. One of the most prolific proponents of the Illuminati theory was the distinguished 1920s British writer and historian Nesta Webster. Webster argued that a variety of secret plots hatched by the Illuminati and the French Freemasons combined with other factors to precipitate the revolution. Webster and many others like her see the Duke of Orleans, the Grand Master of the Masonic Order of the Grand Orient, and him. That's his whole title. I butchered that. He's the main culprit in their eyes, behind the scenes agitator of the Parisian revolutionary crowds, and more specifically, the crowd that stormed the Bastille. So something to look into if you guys want to dig in more. But the Duke, he did play a role in events. Historians kind of debate how much it was, but according to records in the Masonic Lodge, La Parfaite Union, the Masons at least saw him as heavily influential. They say, it is from our temples and from those elevated into the holy philosophy that emanated the first sparks of sacred fire, which, spreading rapidly from east to west and from south to north of France, embraced the hearts of all citizens. None of us, my dear brethren, can ignore that it was our Grand Master, the Duc d'Orléans, who has participated more than anyone else in the happy revolution that has just
D'Orléans.
begun.
The Duke d'Orléans.
Yeah, see, I actually pronounced it wrong anyway. It's Duc d'Orléans. Orléans. Anyway, this is the I see. So we're still talking about the sticks. I want to do stick therapy on Abby. What?
Wow.
Was that an outside thought?
That was an outside thought.
Okay. We'll cut that one later. So moving on to the concept of cornerstone laying.
Ooh.
In many cultures, the ritual of laying a cornerstone to dedicate a temple or monument or great building was like an auspicious moment. It still is, but like auspicious in a deeper way.
Mm-hmm.
It mattered so much that when this was done, a horoscope would be cast to determine like where the stars and the planets were and their respective deities to make sure that they were in best alignment for this thing. Because you were also dedicating it to those specific deities, is my understanding. And this was a practice that carried on into medieval Europe. David Ovason, Masonic author, says, symbolically speaking, the crypt is the burial place. It is the earth into which the seed of wheat must be dropped to grow and resurrect, emerging as a sprouting plant from the coffin. In Masonry, the crypt is the burial place of the Master Mason under the Holy of Holies. This idea of rebirth is continued even in modern times in the formal ritual of the Masonic cornerstone ceremonials, in which participants in the ritual scatter wheat upon the floor and sometimes even link the seating with the stars. So, if anything, it's like the Masons are making their cornerstone ritual distinctly Egyptian. Oh, that idea of like that rebirth thing. Ooh. So the Master Game says, it is known that from the earliest days of their civilization, the ancient Egyptians performed a stellar ritual, form of astral magic, during the cornerstone ceremonies for their pyramids and temples. This ritual involved reference to the circumpolar stars in the northern sky and in the southern sky, to the stars of Orion, and more especially, the star Sirius. In Ovason's view, it was this promise of stellar immutability which first led the ancient Egyptian priests and their pupils, the Greek architects, to orient their temples to the stars. The very same promise as Ovason leads Masonic architects to ensure that their buildings and city plans are also laid out with a geometry which reflects the wisdom of the stellar lore. So we're going to explore, is this actually playing out in American stuff? And also, it's important to note the constellation Virgo and its connection to Isis played like a really big role in Freemasonry. Ooh. The French astronomer and prominent Mason Joseph Jerome Lalande wrote, the Virgin is consecrated to Isis, just as Leo is consecrated to her husband Osiris. So we have a Grand Lodge of England, which was created St. John's Day, June 24, 1717. St. John's Day is considered the Freemason New Year. In the Julian calendar, year by year, it meant that St. John's Day was traditionally celebrated on the summer solstice, but had started to slip further and further away from it. And by 1717, it was 13 days off. Thus, this day on the Julian calendar corresponded with July 4th on the Gregorian, which Britain and the Americas had not adopted by that point. So the Grand Lodge of England is created on July 4th. So he's trying to make this tie between July 4th is in the American holiday and this. I don't know if it really ties in, but it's a fun thing to point out. So talking about the pharaohs. September 18, 1793, just over a month after the Place de la Bastille Isis ceremony, George Washington, in full Masonic regalia, which had been presented to him by the Marquis de Lafayette, placed the cornerstone of the U.S. Capitol, surrounded by high-ranking Freemasons. So the cornerstone laying of the U.S. Capitol was a Masonic event. Yes. And speaking of George Washington, the George Washington Masonic Memorial, that's not the George Washington Memorial, it's a different one, is built to commemorate the Alexandria Lodge, which is now like the Alexandria Washington Lodge. Oh, wow. And it was modeled after the Lighthouse of Alexandria. So let's look at that picture.
Ew, I thought that looked familiar. Okay. Where's my mouse? Okay. There we are.
Yeah. So recall the pictures I showed you of the pharaohs, that same kind of build. Obviously, it's built on like their perception of what it was, but it was intentionally built on it. So Harvey Wiley Corbett is the guy who designed this monument. He says, the Pharos was erected to guide the ancient mariners safely to shore. What would be more appropriate than a facsimile of that lighthouse in Alexandria, Virginia, on top of the highest hill and overlooking the Potomac River? So we did talk about the Statue of Liberty in the Devil is Trans episode. So some of this might sound familiar, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it. The idea of the Statue of Liberty being connected to Isis and Masonic. So a quote from Bernard Weisberger about the Statue of Liberty. He said, the sculptor who made the great statue was Italian. His name was Auguste Bartholdi. His work was greatly influenced by the ancient sculptor Phidias, who made gigantic statues of the ancient goddesses, particularly Athena. Phidias. The goddess of wisdom, and Nemesis, a goddess who held a cup in her right hand. So this guy would have probably made the giant what's it called? Aphrodite, the stranger statue that we were talking about earlier. The giant one that
Ooh.
So before beginning the Statue of Liberty project, Bartholdi was seeking a commission to construct a giant statue of the goddess Isis, Egyptian queen of heaven, to overlook the Suez Canal.
Suez.
Yeah. The statue of Isis was to be of a robed woman holding aloft a torch.
Hmm.
So before he gets the Statue of Liberty project, he already really wants to make a statue of Isis with these descriptions.
Right.
So it seems like when this opportunity comes up, he just goes for it and he makes. So the Statue of Liberty is Isis.
This is why I think, going back to this idea that like it doesn't necessarily have to be this grand conspiracy so much as these artists are channeling demons and they're building these things into the art.
They're all unwittingly participating in a giant overarching conspiracy that is supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So the Franco-American Union, organized to gather the funds for this monument, included Freemasons, like a bunch of Freemasons, including the French ambassador to the United States, who was the cousin of the guy who made the statue. Other Freemasons in the Union were Henry Martin and Oscar de Lafayette. Bartholdi himself was a Freemason, and he became a Master Mason later on. And though he was the one who designed the statue, Alexandre Gustave Eiffel was the one who built it. Does that name sound familiar?
The Eiffel Tower.
It shouldn't. Yeah, the Eiffel Tower. He was a Freemason as well.
I thought I was supposed to get it right.
No, you got it right. I just didn't want to give it to you because I was feeling mean. I'm just kidding. So French engineer Jean Carousel, he points out that the first two levels of the Eiffel Tower are shaped like a pyramid. You kind of do see it. It's like a pyramid that goes sharp and pointy all of a sudden.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and he would have been aware, Eiffel would have been aware that the history of the location that he chose for his tower, where the French had built a pyramid during 1792 as part of the revolution. So this idea of all these people involved having these same crossover. Also, it's worth noting that Bartholdi apparently even referred to the statue as the Pharos, and he designed a base for it that mirrored the one the history claimed to have been used for the Lighthouse of Alexandria. So let's look at the base of the Statue of Liberty. I have a picture for y'all. Boom.
Boom.
I mean, it's square, but it sort of does match what we've seen of the thing. So, I mean, take it or leave it. But the idea of, I might be crossing. Okay. So Agathusia mentions the Statue of Liberty always gave me Colossus of Rhodes vibes. I might be thinking of the Colossus of Rhodes in my memory I talked about earlier of the giant statue.
Oh,
that's probably it. I'm conflating two things. This is because I'm dumb. But there was a statue in Pharaoh's. Don't cough when I'm talking. Thank you.
Okay, so sorry, you were saying that the base of Lady Liberty, is giving Pharaohs.
Yes, it's giving Lighthouse. Yeah.
Okay.
It was. He at least wanted it to give that.
Yeah. Okay.
So if the Masonic connection of the Statue of Liberty was not already clear, in August 5th, 1984, they put a bronze plaque on the base of the statue, which said, "At this site, on August 5th, 1884, the cornerstone of the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty, enlightening the world, was laid with ceremony by a bunch of names of people who are, or actually one name I just glossed over it, but it's laid by a Freemason." It continues on to mention like other distinguished people who are Freemasonry adjacent. And this is the plaque that commemorates the anniversary, blah, 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 blah. It's just excessive Freemasonry on the plaque. The Master Game says, at the original ceremony on August 5, 1884, Grandmaster William Brodie was asked why the Masonic fraternity had been called upon to lay the cornerstone of the Statue of Liberty, to which he replied, "No other organization has ever done more to promote liberty and to liberate men from the chains of ignorance and tyranny than Freemasonry." One could say the same down the ages of the Gnostics and the Hermeticists in their original Alexandrian context in Egypt and later in their Cathar and Renaissance incarnations of the Middle Ages. All along, the object of these subversive religions, whether taught by Valentinus or Mani, Bruno, or Campanella, has indeed been to liberate mankind from the chains of ignorance and tyranny. So they're drawing this connection. That last bit of a quote was from Hancock and Beauval. They're drawing this connection from the olden times all the way up through the Statue of Liberty of the same striving for gnosis.
Wow.
Yes. Now, during the time that Bartholdi, so again, he's the guy who designed the statue, when he visited Egypt due to procession, the heliacal rising of Sirius had become August 5th. So it seems like when they laid the ceremony, the cornerstone laying ceremony for the Statue of Liberty coincided with the heliacal rising of Sirius, which was the star of Isis.
Okay, interesting.
So, I mean, it could be a coincidence, but that's in ancient Egyptian cornerstone laying ceremonies for temples, which was also known as like the stretching of the cord, The priestesses would perform this dressed as the goddess Seshat, who was the lady of builders, and they would wear a 7-pointed star on their head. Seshat was not only the goddess of builders, architects, and masons, she was married to Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus.
Ooh.
And these ceremonies are believed to have been performed at the heliacal rising of Sirius. So that kind of tie of, is this even something deeper? Because like we've got how many spokes are on the Statue of Liberty's heads? Is it 7 or is it more?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
Look.
Gotta juggle it.
Yes.
Chat is arguing about whether Lady Liberty
Spikes,
is trans. It's a Colossus of Rhodes.
She is trans. He is trans. He does have a chiseled jawline. So basically, the idea for anyone who might have been distracted by my distractingness, there's a priestess who would dress up as this goddess, who is both the goddess of like builders, architects, and masons. She was also married to Thoth, and these ceremonies would be done at the heliacal rising of Sirius, which is when the cornerstone ceremony was laid for the Statue of Liberty, who sort of represents Isis and is also has the 7-pointed star in her head. So it's kind of all interesting.
Yes, there's a lot there.
Yes, we also have an obelisk in New York, and the official once more my mouse has escaped. The official written account of this obelisk, which is at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, or it was written for them, talks about how on 10/9/1880 it was celebrated by a parade of 9,000 Freemasons, and they performed the cornerstone ceremony the next day. So it's just another side of like the Freemasons. When you see obelisks, you see Freemasons. They're kind of, they go together. It's like smoke and fire. Sorry, I got distracted by chat. And then we have Washington, D.C. So there's a glowing winged triangle hanging over the altar in the temple main room at the Supreme Council in Washington, D.C. This is based on the winged solar disk that was featured in Egyptian temples. American author Albert Pike confirmed the presence of the blazing star at the entrance of Masonic lodges and its symbolization of Sirius. To them, the Star of Isis stands for divine truth, or could we say gnosis, passed from God to men and preserved through the generations by Freemasons. Now let's look at the temple that is being referred to here, the Supreme Council at Washington, D.C. Temple Room. We've got several pictures. So
it's really gorgeous.
It is. And feel free to scroll away. There's a bunch. So obviously we see like a Sphinx type thing here. Oh yeah, it's better there. You guys can't see me pointing, but I can see me pointing.
Supreme Council 33rd Degree Museum and Library.
I've
never been here. Where?
I'm not exactly
sure. Interesting. Well, it doesn't seem like the sort of thing you could miss.
It doesn't
very easily.
The statue of George Washington, and then this is
it's very much like an Egyptian tomb inside.
Yes. It's got the statues of Anubis or whatever, and this kind of looks like a Cheesecake Factory at this part with the Sauron sort of.
I have questions about Cheesecake Factory now.
Oh yeah, you should. You should always have questions. See the the symbolism.
Very Egyptian, very Masonic.
Yeah, just very interesting.
Yeah.
There's you couldn't, if you thought it wasn't Egyptian, you just be because you were blind.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I would be kind of curious to go here and kind of look it over, but I know it's a little bit nervous.
Know thyself.
Yep, that's their thing, their line.
Wow, yeah, there's a lot of images here.
The winged Uraeus, I think. And then
purple,
just
purple cloth, bunch of busts, big library,
and then, a lot of books.
Gorgeous library.
So this is mausoleum at Halicarnassus. Oh, so this is an old. I guess it's supposed to be designed to kind of look like this thing. So a lot of
mausoleum at Halicarnassus.
Interesting things going on here. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Cheesecake Factory is the next show we have to do. Should be on why Cheesecake Factory has so many eyes of Sauron at its location. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the interior of Cheesecake Factory.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, the Masonic author David Ovason observes that on September 18, 1793, when the cornerstone of the U.S. Capitol was laid in the morning, the sun was in Virgo. So it's another interesting coincidence. The White House had its own cornerstone ceremony on October 13, 1792. Let's remember that October 13 was the day the order went out to round up the Knights Templar.
Oh.
Again, could be coincidence. A lot of coincidences.
It's one of those things where, like, in order for the coincidence to, like, for there to be good evidence that the coincidence is not a coincidence, you have to show that the people doing it
Yes.
had some intentionality, that they knew these things, that they believed these things, that they
Yeah.
did these things. And I think that you've shown that, and that's well documented in history, that these people were Masons. They were interested in these things. These were how the rituals were done. So you don't have to believe that the rituals are significant to believe that the people
Yeah.
who did these things at the founding of our nation meant them to mean something.
And I think the real question in my mind of like what's going on is, are these people a true continuation of Egyptian belief, or are they LARPing as Egyptian belief? And honestly, does it make a difference? Because you're still doing the thing.
Right. And we say like our country was founded as a Christian nation on Christian ideals, and that is true. And at the same time, it seems that this stuff crept in at
Pretty
the
early
elite
on.
level of the founding.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for how our country was built?
Because I think a lot of the mistake, and some of this comes from people who were Masons claim to be also following God, but it's clear that when you look into what Masonry is about, it's not the Christian God. Even though it's kind of like when people say that Mormons follow Christianity, and it's like, but this is a very different thing. Where is my mouse? I keep losing my mouse. I like on my Mac, when I wiggle my mouse to try to find it, it gets really big all of a sudden.
Yeah,
so you can see it. And the Windows doesn't do that, which I think is lame. Okay, so the procession for the U.S. Capitol ceremony began at the White House. The party traveled via carriage down Pennsylvania
Avenue.
Thank you. Toward Jake and I.
She can pronounce French, but she can't pronounce English, guys.
Apparently. The more I put energy into French, the more it takes away from English, because the French are parasites. So yeah, they go down Pennsylvania Avenue toward Jenkins.
Yeah, I was right.
Yeah. Pennsylvania Avenue is aligned at a 22.
Only about France, though. I want to be so clear.
Oh, yeah.
Hitler was only right about France.
And nothing else. And it was probably an accident that he was right about France. So Pennsylvania Avenue is aligned at a 22-degree angle southeast from the White House and Jenkins Avenues. I'm going to try to make this not boring. If you use astronomical software to map the skies of that day, that would place Sirius rising straight over Jenkins Heights just a few hours before sunrise. So by dawn, it would have been the solitary point of light exactly above the spot where the Capitol now stands. And we can see that on August 11 and 12, Sirius rose heliacally, whatever, straight down Pennsylvania Avenue. So the heliacal rising of Sirius once marked the Egyptian New Year. The world's first true republic since the days of Rome, looks back on Rome itself. That's weird wording. I don't know why mine is. Which saw the introduction of the Julian calendar, which was created by an Egyptian astronomer in Alexandria using the heliacal rising of Sirius. So this all kind of looks intentional, of like they wanted.
Yeah.
Pierre L'Enfant, who designed the plans for DC, was influenced by
Pierre L'Enfant.
He was influenced by André Le Notre, who designed the layout of Paris to align with the rising of Sirius, as it was during Louis XIV's reign. The angle is different in America from Paris, 22 versus 26 degrees, because of the 10-degree difference in latitude between the two locations.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. Shortly after the death of, and also I glossed over a lot, but there was the Great London Fire. There were two different people who presented an idea for rebuilding London after the fire, like immediately after the fire. And they were both very similar, even though it didn't look like they worked together. And they were both like the lining up of the angles and stuff kind of fit sort of symbolical stuff. You'd have to read more about it in the master game, but that was kind of like additional stuff. So shortly after the death of George Washington, plans were drawn up for a national monument to commemorate him. The Congressional Committee first wanted to build a pyramid, 100 feet square at the base, which never got off the ground, mainly due to money issues. 33 years after the suggestion, in 1833, I'm sure that one's actually coincidence, the 33. An even more enormous period was suggested by the influential Freemason Peter Force. I think they keep thinking pyramids are easy to build.
Right?
But
everyone's like, we should build a pyramid. Actually.
Do we know how to do that, though? Like, I know the Pro Base Shop one was here when we moved to America, but that's actually Bass Pro Shop. Yeah. I did say base. Anyway, I'm sentient mostly. In 1836, Robert Mills, architect of Freemason, drew up plans for a temple with Washington dressed as a Greco-Roman in Apollo's solar chariot with an obelisk above the whole thing that had a 5-pointed star at the top. Like, this is excessively pagan.
Yeah. Right?
What ended up sticking was the plan for an obelisk with a pyramidal apex. So normal in comparison, like just like a giant stone phallic object, the Washington Monument that we all know now.
Right.
It
one that gives me a headache every time I'm on the mall.
Yeah, exactly. That one. Yeah. Because it channels your energy into the sky to call back the gods. It's a anyway. I'm workshopping that one. So it had to be put a little off center of the chosen location because the ground wasn't quite good enough to bear its weight. This cornerstone ceremony for it took place on July 4, 1848. And it should be no surprise that this ceremony was conducted by hundreds of Freemasons in full regalia and organized by the Freemasons of America. They're just all over the place. They're like rats. And then for several reasons, several decades passed after the laying of the cornerstone before the construction actually began on the monument itself. And the work only began in 1880. On August 7, 1880 at 10:59 a.m., that's very specific, they conducted a second cornerstone ceremony. This coincided with the rising of Spica in Virgo. So that constellation, which is consecrated to Isis.
Interesting.
One day after the anniversary of George Washington's birthday, the obelisk was finally dedicated on February 21, 1885. And this day, there were a lot of Masonic processions and delegations, etc. So a quote, Ovation's calculations show that this ceremony, which took place in the afternoon, occurred at the moment of the rising of Sirius over the Capitol. The extraordinary truth, he concludes, is that the very existence of the Washington Monument is intimately linked to the Egyptian star Sirius, that the ancients represented in their sacred hieroglyphics as an obelisk-like form as well as a star. Yeah, so the Isis, the star of Sirius was depicted as an obelisk in hieroglyphs. How is it possible that this most important star of the ancient world should find itself, as if it were, resurrected in the architecture of the United States? That is a great question. Because I feel like tall, cool object wanted here does not work as an explanation for me because it's a lot of work to get them over unbroken.
Yeah.
I would know that because I was involved many years ago. Anyway, there's a plaque right over the doorway in the monument with George Washington's face on it. And above that plaque is the winged solar disc with a star at the center. I have a picture of the plaque if you would like to bring it up for our edification. So yes, so we see up top the winged snaky thing with the star in it. It's very Egyptian. And also, someone did point out with how much is shown of George Washington's neck and chest, he's shirtless.
Yeah.
On their coin. He's just shirtless beefcake president dude. Why?
Roman,
answer that for me.
Like Roman artistic influence.
I think we should all have a president's shirtless. Like all the presidents
all
on
the
all the
presidents
bills
should be shirtless.
I'm just kidding.
That's fair.
Anyway, in 1941, we have the cornerstone ceremony for the Pentagon. There's no Masonic regalia this time. Instead, we have the highest ranking military personnel with the 5-pointed stars on their uniforms. So they're claiming that's the tie.
Oh.
Before Pearl Harbor.
Tenuous, I think.
Yeah.
A little tenuous.
We'll dig in a little deeper. It'll feel a little less tenuous, maybe. You're allowed to disagree with me. You got one disagreement per episode. Before Pearl Harbor, there were 24,000 civilian and military personnel, and they were divided between 17 buildings in Washington, D.C. As the U.S. looked at joining World War II, they wanted to kind of get everyone into a single headquarters so that they're all like on the same page. President FDR approved all designs and major decisions in this project. It's important to mention that FDR was a Master Freemason as of 1911 and a 32nd degree Scottish Freemason as of 1929. The standard explanation for the shape of the building is that the original plot of land proposed for the project was 5-sided. But then, of course, you might wonder why they kept the design when they ended up choosing another spot. I guess it could be because it was easy. I don't know. It seems like a weird explanation to be like, we made the building that shape because the land was that shape. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
The idea is if anyone was aware of the symbolic associations of this shape, it would have been FDR who designed the shape. So,
right.
When viewed from above, the Pentagon lies at a 24-degree axis southwest from the Capitol. That axis in 1941 put Sirius directly over the Pentagon. So again, just, it could be a coincidence. But let's look at that picture overhead of the Pentagon. Yeah, it's just, it's got like that weird simple thing in the middle. I don't know. Yeah, it's just a Pentagon.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to drive around it more than 2 times before they get mad at you.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just making that up. I'm just implying that I've gotten in trouble for circling it. So we all know about September 11, 2001. But do we know about the groundbreaking ceremony for the Pentagon, which took place on September 11, 1941?
Oh my goodness. What?
Isn't that weird?
That is
like
weird.
It's probably a complete coincidence. Like, honestly, I'm not even it's just when you get to stuff like this, I feel like the more you get into weirdness, it is we talked about
the numerology. You could go crazy with the numerology. Yeah,
we talked about this a bit in the Lisa Lamb episode where there's just like a lot of coincidence and no one could have orchestrated that. But I feel like the closer you get to like the epicenter of something big and demonic, the more you just see like these fragments of conspiracy coincidence just rippling up from it. But on the top,
Variable's uncle was in the Pentagon on 9/11/2001.
Oh wow. Are you confessing to I'm just he was working for Lockheed Martin at the time. Interesting. Tell us more. Oh, I clicked Pfizer.
Oh yeah, he was on the other side. He was
Yeah,
fine.
that's what I was hoping. So this, honestly, given everything that's happened lately, this part is less like exciting to talk about, but it is worth just mentioning because this is how the clincher of the master game.
Okay.
So in reference to 9/11, this is not a conspiracy of 9/11 so much as an explanation for why the Muslims might have done 9/11.
Sure.
So there's some important things to note here. The Scottish Rite ceremonies are very like Templar and Jewish coded because like the whole idea of the Templar and Freemason movements is they want to build their lodges off of King Solomon's temple. They want to kind of frame it. So like they have the twin pillars, Boaz and Joachim, however you pronounce it. If you can pull up the picture of the pillars. So they have obviously you see like the beehive and their symbolism, but they'll often have these two pillars in their temples. And this kind of, they tried to claim that the pillars were based off of the pre-flood ones where all the information was kept. So anyway, there's a deep and abiding resentment in Islam against Israel. Kind of obvious. But in the master game, Hancock and Bouval ask the question, and this is going to be a long quote from them. Could there have been more to President Roosevelt's and President Truman's involvement in the affair of the U.S. Pentagon and the date of 11 September than at first meets the eye? Is it a coincidence, for example, that the principal symbol used in 32nd degree Scottish Freemasonry is in fact a pentagon? And is it also a coincidence that in the same Masonic order and same 32nd degree, the symbol of the Pentagon is divided into 5 military divisions of the Scottish Rite Army, in the same way the U.S. Pentagon is divided into 5 branches of the U.S. military? More to the point, the Masonic author Christopher Knight, when investigating this very matter of the strange similarity between the U.S. Pentagon and 32nd degree Scottish Rite rituals and symbolism, wrote, "We could hardly believe our eyes. The 32nd degree is known as the degree of the sublime prince of the royal secret. It comprises of 3 separate parts. These are the opening ceremony, the ceremonial section, and the allegory. This particular ceremony is very elaborate, as befits someone who has climbed as high on the Freemasonic ladder as is possible to go under one's own effort. A great deal of play acting takes place, and the various characters all have fictional names. It suggests that the 32nd degree relates to the fight for Jerusalem." It's like a reenactment of it. "The ceremony takes place in what appears to be a fictitious military camp, which is a 5-sided figure or pentagon. We know, of course, of the many harebrained conspiracy theories that followed the 11 September 2001 attacks, and we don't want to add more fuel to the fire. But it is also obvious that the foreign policies of Presidents Roosevelt and Truman greatly contributed to the creation of the State of Israel in the second half of the 1940s, and this made us wonder about their common affiliation to the Scottish Rite. There's also the bizarre fact that the President Roosevelt was both a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason as well as the 32nd President of the United States, while President Truman, who had been Roosevelt's vice president, was both a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Mason and the 33rd President of the United States. In Scottish Rite Freemasonry, the 4 final degrees from the 30th to the 33rd are the stage of initiation at which the candidate is thought to achieve the sublime objective of the Masonic Enlightenment, or some would say experiment, which allegorically is the rebuilding of the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. So basically what's being suggested here is that as far as it concerns the motivations of Roosevelt and Truman in helping set up Israel, that they were trying to co-opt this as their Masonic ritual of creating the New Jerusalem.
Sure.
It's a little weak, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because it informed potentially the conspiratorial thinking of Islam. Not that I think that this is the case.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So because it's not about the Jews taking over the world is what I'm talking about. It's that the Freemasons are taking over the world, co-opting the Jews.
Right.
But Islam doesn't see the distinction, is the idea.
Oh, I see what
they're
saying. So what they're saying is like Osama bin Laden did it, but it was significant from a Masonic standpoint, and that's why they chose what they chose.
Yeah, I think so. So they go on to say in a quote, "Is it possible that the Roosevelt and Truman administrations took the Masonic experiment all the way and actually rebuilt the Jewish Solomonic state in Palestine?" So Bouval talks about how, while he was in Egypt years ago, he found a Scottish Rite Masonic certificate, or he was shown it, that the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree had issued in Cairo in 1918, back when it was allowed to practice there. It was outlawed in 1964. It was pretty popular before it was outlawed, and it was not uncommon to find Freemasons in government and in the Egyptian royal family. And that certificate specified the location of the Supreme Council in Cairo. So what they point out is the modern state of Israel extends from the latitude 30 north to 33 north. When carried west into Egypt, the former latitude passes along through almost through the Great Pyramid of Giza in Cairo. So I think they're kind of hinting at like the Masons wanted like a state that lined up with. It's a little loose.
It feels like it's one of those things where I think sometimes like it can be true that the numbers are significant, but that no human, like the idea that some Freemasons could have dictated the boundary lines to the extent that they could get them to line up numerologically doesn't really make sense to me. But
if they were able to do that, they have a lot of power.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So, but Hancock and Bauval do point out a very interesting thing that is true and based on fact, that Muslims are just like, they're intensely anti-Masonic. I didn't realize like how big a deal it was, but they've actually carried out terror attacks against Freemasons. So this quote from them: in 1978, the most influential body in promulgating and interpreting Islamic law and ideologies, the Islamic Jurisdictional College, located at Al-Azhar University, condemned Freemasonry as an evil organization. 17 years later, the same condemnation of Freemasonry was repeated in Saudi Arabia in the Saudi Gazette of 13 January 1995, called The Curse of Freemasonry in Questions of Faith, etc., etc., etc. We show here only items 7, 8, and 10, which are self-evident. Number 7, Freemasonry is a Jewish organization in its roots. Its secret, higher or international administrative board are Jews, and it promotes Zionist activities. This is all Islam talking, not me. Point 8, its primary objectives are the destruction of all religions. I guess I was going to say, does it say destruction? But it says destruction of all religions, and it distracts Muslims from Islam. And then it has branches under different names as a camouflage so people cannot trace its activities, especially if the name of Freemasonry has opposition. These hidden branches are known as the Lions, Rotary, and others. They have wicked principles that completely contradict the rules of Islam. There is a clear relationship between Freemasonry, Judaism, and international Zionism. It has controlled the activities of high Arab officials in the Palestinian problem. It has limited their duties, obligations, and activities for the benefit of Judaism and international Zionism. Given that Freemasonry involves itself in dangerous activities, it is a great hazard with wicked objectives. The jurisdictional synod determines that Freemasonry is a dangerous, destructive organization. Any Muslim who affiliates with it, knowing the truth of its objectives, is an infidel to Islam. And then another quote: such condemnations are now commonplace on the internet. For example, in a popular website, Islam Online, statement regarding Freemasonry and Islam, we also found the following: the Society of Freemasons aims to rebuild the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem after destroying Al-Aqsa Mosque, because the Jews allege that the mosque has been built on the site of the destroyed temple. Everything that furthers the interests of the Jews and promotes their position in the world is undertaken by the society. The cover of absolute secrecy and its strict hierarchy enables it to make use of the positions and influence of its non-Jewish members to serve the Jewish cause. Freemasonry seeks to destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque in order to rebuild the Temple of Solomon in its place. So like, that's like fighting words for them.
Sure.
They get a lot of this from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
Interesting.
Which that came out in the early 1900s, and it claimed to be an expose of a Zionist Masonic plot for world domination. It was used in Russian and Nazi Germany anti-Semitic propaganda, and like now it's used by a lot of radical Muslims. And it does not matter to them that it's long been debunked. It's still like a staple in their propaganda. Beyond this, Islam associates Masons with the Masih ad-Dajjal, a false prophet / false messenger, satanic type figure who prophecy claims will appear as a harbinger of the day of judgment. He is supposed to have one eye. So they make sure to point out that the one-eyed pyramid on the dollar bill, as well as on the eye in the triangle Masonic symbol, that's a big thing to them. Like, obviously.
Yeah.
Another quote here: the internet is rife with websites that connect Freemasonry with the Dajjal. According to many of these websites, Freemasonry was behind the Gulf War, the invasion of Afghanistan, the Iraq War, the oppression in the Gaza Strip, and the turmoil. Experts on anti-terrorism are gradually coming around to realize that there is a growing and dangerous paranoia about Freemasonry in some Islamic quarters that is extremely worrying, not least because it is drummed into the young minds, often even as part of school curricula. For example, in Saudi Arabia, a lesson for 10th grade boys on the Zionist movement included in a school book on Islamic culture is, quote, a curious blend of wild conspiracy theories about Masonic lodges, Rotary clubs, and Lions clubs with anti-Semitic invective. It asserts that the Protocols of the Elders of Zion is an authentic document and teaches students that it reveals what Jews really believe. And so coming back to the setup in Masonic temples, they have the pillars of Boaz and Yakim at their entrances, as well as they have a pentagon inside to symbolize the Holy of Holies. So Hancock and Bauval asked, could it be that the attacks on the Twin Towers at the entrance of America, i.e. New York, and on the Pentagon, the Holy of Holies of U.S. military power, were intended, at least in part, as a coded symbolic message aimed at the imagined Templar Crusaders or Zionist Masonists, or both? So the idea of in this conspiracy theory, it's that, yes, the Muslims did it. And it wasn't just to be a terror attack, but because through this great misunderstanding that makes them look even more stupid than before, they thought that they were attacking like they thought that we had set up a giant Masonic temple out of America and that they were destroying the entrance and its Holy of Holies.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Perhaps. I think, yeah, I want to talk about that. I'm kind of planning kind of a hodgepodge episode of like ways that my thinking has kind of changed on a number of different unrelated topics, but like the topics are different, but the change has all the same theme in it. And like you guys have followed, like it's not going to be shocking.
We'll still be shocked.
We'll still be shocked, but it shouldn't be. But I think that there are things about 9/11 like that that are in that. So anyway, whenever we do that, maybe next week, I'll get into that. But that's really, really fascinating because with it, it's like because I've heard all of that kind of theory, not as well as you presented it, and not as connected to Islam. I've heard that, but that kind of Masonic ritual connected to 9/11, but it doesn't make sense with 9/11 being an inside job. At least it doesn't look like it does. But it makes a lot more sense if the Islamic terrorists did it. So that's really fascinating.
So now, to anyone reading the Master Game book, Hancock's conclusion is that religion must step aside and that secularism must take over if we're to have a future. So don't get too excited if you read the book that he's going to have good thoughts at the end. But what was I going to say? I have looked into like all the 9/11 theories, and I remember, I mean, there are certain things that get brought up where I'm like, yeah, this does kind of look weird. Like something doesn't add up. But the more I see of Islam, the religion where they blow themselves up, to make a point, it doesn't seem that alarming or that out of the usual for me to think that they blew themselves up in this case too. Like it's So this was kind of an all over the place episode, but basically, if you take anything away in summary, it's that while I don't want to sound like a Muslim, it seems like Freemasons are up to something and have been up to something for a while. But the idea of the ideology, I think we tend to think, well, this culture believed in these gods, and then the next culture came along and new gods, and those don't stick around. But it does kind of seem like it's the same thing cropping up under different identities. It's like a hydra with different heads. And so it is worth kind of...
And it's not, it's almost not so much that the Freemasons are up to something, so much as that the demons,
the same ones
that inspire Freemasonry and that are worshipped in Freemasonry, are up to something.
So I think it's good to remember that, like, while these things are kind of fun to learn about, etc., I think there's no way to ironically participate in this type of thing of like any rituals for fun. Not that I think you guys would do that, but like I think that there is still meaning behind stuff that we kind of consider, well, it ended thousands of years ago.
I can do this ritual because it doesn't have meaning.
Still does.
Yeah.
And I think we see a lot of it in Hollywood and Anyway. It's a long episode. My tongue feels like it's 2 sizes too large for my mouth because I've been talking too much. But I appreciate y'all having the patience for my scatterbrained thoughts and inability to speak English and only ability to speak French. That's a major red flag in me. So I appreciate any of you who stuck around through that.
Sock update.
She's
Almost done the leg of this.
She's gonna fill it with nickels and beat me with it.
That was the plan, but now it's thwarted because you figured it out.
You'll have to use batteries now. I won't see that coming.
Maybe I'll just go back to nickels since you've seen batteries coming. Chat, you have been wonderful tonight. Thank you so much. I know that in the last few minutes you've been talking about Charlie some more and grieving some more, and I do want to talk to you guys about him and stuff right now. I just feel so sick about it, and sick about, like, it's been to the point where I'm like, I'm embarrassed to ever have been associated with conspiracy theories. Is just kind of the level of sick that I feel. And I think that's just kind of like a visceral emotional reaction that won't necessarily bear out into like the future. Cause I still really like getting into conspiracy theories, but I saw deep ugliness in it this time around, especially with the ones that we're blaming. We're trying to blame Frank Turek.
Yeah.
Just evil, just so cruel.
It's kind of sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
okay.
I feel like it's similar to when the Challenger exploded and reporter like turned to someone and was like, "So how do you feel watching like your loved one blow up?"
Right. It's just
Like punching you, actually, interestingly enough.
yeah.
Mhm.
And Candace going after Seth Dillon and that there's just been a weight in just the betrayal in all of this. It's just been really sickening. So
Yeah.
it's because it matters so much that I haven't been able to talk about it. But I hope you guys, I'm glad you guys were able to talk about it a little bit in the chat tonight. And I hope to be able to talk to you more about it later. Pray that God is with you, comforts you, helps you sort through all these things in your mind, whether you saw the videos or you didn't. We love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. And good night.